Welcome on into the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, filling in from now until 2 p.m. And I am live on remote. We are at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy. Come down and visit me. I got some pizza over here that we can give you. We're giving away tickets throughout the day. And just come by, stop by, and say hello. We are at 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come on down, come see me, have some pizza if nothing else. If you're hungry, payday was, 11 days ago? And it's not for another 4 days. Come by, get some free lunch. Come stop by and say hello. We got a packed show for you. Coming up in about 10 minutes, one of my favorite guests. He's a motivational speaker. He was a longtime successful player in the NFL. Had some success coaching in the NFL as well. You also see him pretty much daily on ESPN. That would be the one, the only Herm Edwards. And yes, you play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. I love talking with him, so he's going to drop by in about 10 minutes from now. And let's see, bottom of the hour, we're going to get into some basketball talk. I'm going to tell you why you think that, if you're a big NBA fan and you're watching, this play-in tournament, or not play-in tournament, but in-season tournament thing that they got going on, you think that that might be the most important day. Obviously, a lot of people that are not diehard NBA fans but enjoy the NBA and watch it, they'll tell you that Christmas Day is the most important day for the NBA because that's when casual NBA fans start to really take notice. But that's not the most important day. It's not the championship game of the NBA Cup on the 17th, and it's not Christmas Day on the 25th. It's December 15th, so I'll tell you why, plus a bunch of trade rumors that are circulating around, so we'll do that at the bottom of the hour. But right now, it's time to spend more time reflecting and appreciating the time that Alex Smith spent here in Salt Lake City, Utah, as a member of the Utah Utes. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, the first ever Utah Ute to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. And when I tell you the names that he got inducted with, you're going to understand why he is in such rare air. So the Twitter poll question for you is very simple. I'm not sure how unanimous it is. There are arguments to be made for other Utah Ute quarterbacks, namely somebody that's going to join me later in the show, Scott Mitchell, along with a guy who had 2 great years and then some years that were injury-plagued, the most recent, Cam Rising. But for you, the fact that he is the first ever inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame, does that cement him as the greatest Ute quarterback of all time? And the answer is yes, A, or B, I still think it's up for debate. So we'll be getting into that, reflecting a little bit on his time here. And why it's relevant to today is because you're going to see an offense that looks a lot similar to when Alex Smith was here and lost a combined 1 game over the span of 2 seasons than you are the kind of offense that you've seen over the past decade or so. So if you look back and reflect upon Alex Smith's time very fondly, like I would think most Ute fans do, then that gets you, not only gives you a reason to be proud and excited about Alex Smith getting inducted, but also should get you excited about what's to come next year as the Utes completely revamp the way that they're going to go about offense. So you can text in any of your answers. I'll pull the text up line here in a minute on remote, so we got a ton of spinning plates, moving parts. But you can text in the meantime, 877-353-0700. That is the Dish Pros text line. You can also call in at that number, 877-353-0700. And you can vote on the poll. I'll update as the show goes along. The station's handle, which the poll's already up, at ESPN 700. And then I'll retweet it at some point. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. So that'll be the bulk of the opening segment, which the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is always brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you are having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like, let Alvy Armani help you out. Find them online at alviarmani.com. Tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you. So, look, when Alex Smith was here, they played a spread offense at the University of Utah, and he was the face of the innovative system. It was a spread offense, a high-powered attack that featured zone reads, quarterback runs, and a pass-happy style. Pass-happy, sure, but being a gifted passer and a runner was a major part of not only Alex Smith's success, but the offense as a whole. And I don't know how much of that line of thinking went into it. As we said, last year was not as big of a disaster as this year was. But as I've said ad nauseum, the defense has not been the issue, which means if you're doing process of elimination, that means the offense was. And so there's going to be casualties when that happens. Mid-season, it was the offensive coordinator. And then in this offseason now, it's going to be a lot of the personnel. But if you're a Ute fan and you're trying to get pumped up, you're trying to be optimistic, turn the page, last year's in the past, then you should be excited that you are moving towards something similar in terms of your offensive look from when Alex Smith had so much success here. And you're going to see that throughout the transfer portal, either, both leaving and both exiting Utah. You're going to see the kind of big-time change that clearly the offense needed, because I listed off a ton of stats yesterday about just how far down Utah's offense ranked. I mean, it was bad. You look at the names that were just below them, and you do not want to be mentioned with programs like that. So in comes Jason Beck. And Beck, not necessarily so much spread like the one Alex ran. It's got way more elements of it than what Utah has been running. But Beck's is pretty diverse. It's centered around the read option and run pass option, the RPO. But there's also a lot of spread within it. And it basically gives you more options, and it puts a lot more responsibility on the quarterback to be able to read just exactly what the defense is doing. And you need to hope, both the quarterback and the fans and the coaching staff, hope that the proper decision is made based on the read. But again, it's good to know that you're going to be looking at a style that was much similar to that than the futility that you've been dealing with over the past couple of years. But back to Alex, it's a pretty historic moment for the University of Utah. It was yesterday morning in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was honored among other legendary names. Now, I don't know about you. I played 1 year of freshman football, but when you're 6'6" and you're 210 or 205, whatever I was at that point, you're not built for football, because when you're tall and skinny, you drop like a twig. You need to be a little thicker and probably a little shorter. I guess at quarterback, which I played a little bit up, you could, but the second you get hit. Basically, I played basketball my whole life up until junior college, and I got hurt 0 times, or maybe once I rolled an ankle. In football, I played 1 year of freshman football. I got hurt 3 times. So I was not built for it. But if I was, I would love to be amongst the names for you NFL people out there. Even if you're a casual fan, these names should ring a bell. The other people that were honored on Tuesday: Julius Peppers, Randy Moss, and Larry Fitzgerald. That's not bad. And Smith, obviously his NFL career helped him, as he had a very successful NFL career with the Niners and the Chiefs, and were what then the Washington, different name, now they're the Washington Commanders. He had a fantastic career in the NFL as well. But even if you take the NFL out, when you go 21-1 in Utah, which he did over 2 seasons, you're going to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. So we'll talk about that and much, much more Vote on the poll when you get a chance. Again, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. The station handle is at ESPN 700. Does this Hall of Fame induction cement Alex Smith as the greatest Utah quarterback of all time? But right now, it is always my pleasure, and we can't waste any more time getting to my guy. He says ESPN analyst first. He says motivational speaker. He's got NFL coach and 10-year NFL DB. Now, you might only know him for you play to win the game. My personal favorite is think before you hit send. Did a great job with New York and the Chiefs, and obviously one of the most famous interceptions of all time, DB, my guy, Herm Edwards. Herm, how are you, sir?
I am well. How are you doing?
No complaints. I want to start with what I started the show with, which is Alex Smith getting inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame. What are your memories just in terms of – because you've been covering football for a long time, so I'm sure you remember his one loss in 2 seasons career at Utah with Urban Meyer, sort of kind of putting that entire organization on the map, and then his time in the NFL, number 1 pick for the Niners, didn't get off to a great start, but he also didn't have a lot around him, ended up doing well with Harbaugh, moving on to the Chiefs under Andy Reid before Patrick Mahomes took over for him, and then finally that brutal, gruesome leg injury that he ended up coming back from with the Washington Commanders. So just give me some of your thoughts. I'm out here in Utah. Give me some of your thoughts and your memories of Alex Smith, both in college and in the NFL.
Well, I can remember his days in college. First thing you noticed about him, he was very athletic. He was kind of that new breed of quarterback that was coming into the league. He was an athletic guy. People don't remember how good he was as a runner. He could run. He's a big old athlete. Mm-hmm. And then from there, obviously his career kind of, hit certain spots. But I just thought that when Coach Harbaugh had him, kind of fit the system around what he could do, obviously, and he had a lot of success there. But more than anything else is that I have the privilege of working with Alex. He obviously works for ESPN as well, and we cross paths every once in a while during the weekends when he's in the studio. Class act, just class act, and you want nothing but the best for him. He's just a classy guy. He goes about his business in a professional way. He's all about the game of football. He really is. He's very astute when he delivers his message about football. And just, when you play as long as he's played at that position, obviously, and had that gruesome injury. I mean, we all watched it. It was like, my Lord.
Yeah.
And just the kind of guy he is, the character of the man. I mean, he represented the league. He represented that university with a lot of class. So can't say nothing but good things about Alex Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a very fascinating career, and I would say, if nothing else, a very successful career. Obviously, didn't get a Super Bowl, but yeah, in terms of college and pro, and now as you mentioned, his post career as an analyst was fantastic. I want to talk to you about different styles of offense in the college game. Now, we all know you coached for New York and for Kansas City, and then you had a stint with Arizona State, who got a bye. Coach, I'm going to give all the credit for them getting the first-round bye to you. That was the foundation that you laid down. But seriously, when it comes to the offense, now you were more of a defensive guy. But obviously, it's not like the head coach doesn't work with the offensive coordinator or the offensive side of the ball. But how much goes into what style you want to play? Utah's going to be transitioning from running the pro-style offense to now a spread/RPO style offense. How do you factor that in? Is a lot of that what kind of personnel you bring in, or do you create the system and then bring in guys to fit that system?
Well, it works either way, but you have to know what you want. And I think it all boils down to one position. You talked about it. You've been talking about it. It's the quarterback. What can the quarterback do well? I mean, we were fortunate enough when I was in college at Arizona State, we had Jaden Daniels. So you just take that for what it is. And
yeah.
Think, when you look at Jaden, it's very interesting. He goes to Washington, and obviously, the coordinator there, fit the style of offense that Jaden can run. And, when you look at how he's been successful, is they built the offense around his skill set. You got a beeping car going on, but that's okay. And, I just think that has a lot to do with the quarterback position. when you have a guy that obviously can do certain things with the ball, you got to build the offense around it. That's how it works.
Yeah. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg, I suppose. But, I mean, in Utah's case, 3 of their quarterbacks entered the transfer portal because they were running a pro style, and now they're going to be bringing in a lot of guys that are closer to the spread and the RPO. But I'm trying to get Utah, because the first reaction, I think, from a Utah Ute fan when you see that not to go LeBron on you, Coach, but not 1, not 2, but 3 quarterbacks are entering the transfer portal, your first thought is, well, what's going on here? But when you're changing the scheme, like in this instance, they're changing the scheme and bringing in guys to fit the scheme. And sometimes you have the guys and then you change the scheme. But ultimately, it's a balance between the two, right? I mean, as a coach, when you're implementing that, you've got to figure it out one way or the other. But the one thing you can't do is try to fit a round peg through a square hole or whatever.
Yeah, because no one's going to be successful.
Yeah.
The quarterback's not going to be successful, and your team's not going to be successful. And look, one thing about Utah, understand who your head coach is. Okay, that man has a lot of success. He's had a lot of success. And I think sometimes, we get spoiled. And when you have so much success, when you have an off year or two, we get all, it's like the New England Patriots right now. I laugh. I said, they've been in Camelot for 20 years. Well, they have Captain America as the quarterback. And now they got to feel what everybody else is feeling for a little while. Well, it won't take long for them to figure it out, right? And same thing with Utah. They're going to figure out what they want to do. And here again, you're in the era now when you recruit players, you got to understand the vibe, where players want to go and what kind of offense they want to play in, right?
Yeah.
If you're not structured enough to be able to change that a little bit with the times, you're going to find yourself in a bad spot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to ask you one more college football question before I pick your brain about the NFL. The college football playoff. Yeah. I hate to ask you such a broad question, but I'm pretty sure all of the people in the NC2A are kind of rubbing their fingers together like an evil mastermind in like a James Bond movie, where this is exactly what they wanted. I thought that it was a huge jump. 2-4 made sense, but then 4-12 I thought was a huge jump. Obviously, they make a whole spectacle out of it. They have a special with the committee and what comes out, and all these fan bases are barking at each other, and is it strength of schedule or how many total losses? When did you lose? How did you lose? What do you make of the 12-game playoff? Are you in favor of it? I think I am in general, but it makes it really difficult and it gets a little murky. Were there any surprises? Mine was Alabama, but what are your thoughts on the first year of the 12-game playoff?
Well, we knew it was going to be, looked at and torn apart because everyone has an opinion. But I think it's the first year out. I think this is what we anticipated in the fact that we needed this in college football. I said this when I was in the studio last week. It's going to go to 16, in my opinion. It's going to be 16 teams, right? That's what it's going to go to. It's going to go to 16 because this is going to be what the fan base wants. I mean, this is what we want to see. This is great football.
Yeah,
and it's been way too long for this not to happen. It's no different than the greatest event in basketball, in my opinion, is obviously the NCAA championship.
But don't tell me we're going to Don't tell me we're going to 64, Herm.
No, these kids will be playing until April if you get that. No. But I do believe it'll get to 16.
Okay.
Because then those where it's really hard to figure out, and because there's been a couple teams you wish that were in there. And then eventually, because look, this too. Let's understand something. This makes a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Herm, my father told me a long time ago, God rest his soul, he told me a long time ago, son, if you ever want to figure out the answer to a problem or a question, follow the money. So, yes, it's all about the money. Yep.
Right. We can say they're college athletes, but they're now they're college paid employees because it's NLI, and you can pay a player.
Yeah.
Let's figure this thing out, man. Let's don't hide behind the curtain. Let's just say, okay, this is what it is. We get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's transfer, much like college athletes want to do. Transfer to the NFL. And Herm, I often see this. Now, I played more basketball than I did football, but usually when there's problems, and you've seen it as a player and you've seen it as a coach, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of infighting one way or the other, but you don't usually see it when you're winning, Herm. You see it. You see it when you're losing. And that's when you get an anonymous source or somebody said this or there's rumblings about that. When you're losing, of course, I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I can't tell if this is on the field or off the field, and I'm just sitting there with my hands up, going, you guys are in line to possibly get the number 1 seed in the NFC. What could you guys be fighting about? Now, I know a wide receiver's involved, and you haven't covered wide receivers. You know that they can be divas, but what do you make of what's going on in Philly?
Well, it's a shame in this sense that, they had this going on last year, and that was their demise. And I spoke upon it when I was in the studio this weekend. I said, look, this is not fantasy football. This is not about your stats. This is about winning. And if they can just handle their business and don't get in their own way, they're probably going to play in the championship game against the Detroit Lions. And that's what it's going to be. Those are the two best, in my opinion, the two best teams in the NFC side of it. And you hate to see this, and you're like, I'm a former Eagle. And so, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, guys. Let's figure this thing out, man. It ain't that hard, right? And I think, the problem is this, is that players, especially the talented ones, they all got egos. They all want the ball. I get it. And if I was the head coach, it's real simple. I'm going to speak to these guys and say, look, here's the deal. You get about 64 plays in a game, 64, 65 plays, offensive plays. Unless we get a couple turnovers, we get some more plays. Okay. But here's the deal. 25 or 26 is going to touch the ball 25 times. That happens to be Saquon Barkley. 25 times out of 65 plays, he's getting the ball, man. Okay? So you guys do the math. Now, Brown, I'll target you 10 times.
Yeah.
I'll target you 10 times, okay? But here's the problem. You play receiver. If they roll the coverage, I can't throw you the ball.
Yeah.
I can't tell them, hey, man, I'm targeting A.J. Brown. Will you please play man-to-man so I can throw him the ball? It don't work that way.
Yeah, and plus they have a tight end to feed too, Herm. Yeah.
It's just everybody wants the ball. Receivers, all those guys that catch the ball, I said it my whole life. They're 7-Eleven. They're always open.
Of course.
They always want the ball.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
Just win. Just go ahead and win. Get to the championship game and do this. Your stats ain't going to matter anyway. Go win a Super Bowl. Have that be your big number 1 stat. Go win a world champ. Do that.
100%, because if you go on to become an analyst or anything else, they're going to introduce you as Super Bowl champ, not wide receiver that had 20 touchdowns in 2024. I'm totally with you. All right, this one Herm, in this business, it does not pay to not have an opinion, and I just in my normal day-to-day life, I probably have too many opinions, so it's rare when I don't. But I'm torn on this one, and I'm wondering where you stand, because I listen to you for most things, so maybe you can point me in one direction or the other. How do you feel? Okay, Luther Burden III, Missouri wide receiver, and Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, he's a running back. They're both not playing in their respective bowl games. And you see this. You've seen this more and more as years go by. The reason why I don't have an opinion, Herm, is because on one side I can see why risk dropping 3 rounds in the draft that's going to cost you a lot of money and might jeopardize your career moving forward. But the competitor in me, Herm, can't stand that they wouldn't want to play alongside their teammates in their final game. So where are you on that, Herm?
Well, I had to deal with it when I was at Arizona State. We were fortunate enough to go to some bowl games, and I knew it was coming. And and then what I did is I kind of addressed the guys and said, "Look, I get it. Some of you guys ain't gonna play. That's the way college football is in today's world. Some of the stars, because the bowl game ain't big enough, in their opinion. It ain't big enough. If it's a big enough bowl, they're in. If it's the Rose Bowl or something like, I'm in. If it's one of these other bowls, not so much. So you understood that taking over. So I told them, I said, look, here's the deal, man. What you're going to have, and I treated them this way. Without you on this team, some of you guys, obviously we wouldn't have got here. So, you can be mad at them if you want, but I'm on the other side of it, looking through the players' eyes, and look, without these guys, we ain't had all these wins. We have to figure that out. Okay, and then the next thing I told them was this. I said, look, you're going to go to the game. You're going to travel. You're coming to practice. You're on the team. I want you on the sideline helping the young guys. And I left it at that. And I said, look, whether you want to play or not, hey, that's up to you. I get it. Guys, look, I've been in this game a long time, man.
Yeah.
And you want to get mad and all that. I said, there's no need getting mad. Because, well, what are you going to do? You're going to get mad at the player that basically helped you get to this bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
One of your star players, you're going to get mad at him now? No.
Yeah.
And I told these guys, I said, look, just let me know ahead of time. So when we start practicing for these bowl games, I know you ain't involved. You ain't going to play. That's good. I'll get the other guys reps. And I'll leave it at that.
I was looking for a perfect answer, and of course you delivered. That's why you are the best motivational speaker, former NFL coach, 10-year NFL DB. Does that mean you got pension, Herm? Is it 10 years when you get pension?
Pension? I got some pension, and I left some good numbers behind. And I always tell guys, when you go in the league, I always want to leave some numbers. And when I left, I said, okay, if you're a DB in Philadelphia, can you get 38 up? Let's see if you get 38 up. That's the number you got to chase now.
Hey, sir, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Follow him on Twitter at Herm Edwards. You see him pretty much every day on ESPN. Always appreciate the time, Coach. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
There you go, Herm Edwards. Oh, did you hear that? James, I want that clipped up. Right at the end there, he said, my friend.
You're right, yeah. We definitely need to clip that up.
Yeah, James, I'm putting that on my website.
And that's despite your car alarm going off in the background there.
Yeah, by the way,
in Rocky Mountain Chevy.
In the middle of that, I turned one of the knobs all the way down. Did that help?
I think it did. It did because it did get quieter, but yeah, that was pretty funny.
Just smack dab.
Are you and Cynthia, the remote tech, are you guys trying to boost cars at the Willow Motor Company today?
No,
Zakariah?
I don't know why the car went off. I will get to the bottom of it. But yeah, God bless Herm. He didn't just leave the elephant in the room. He's like in the middle of his answer. He's like, you got a car going off over there. He's probably, because I didn't say I was at a dealership, so he's probably like, what the hell's going on?
I could see that being very distracting for a guest, but he did a great job just finishing his thought.
Hey,
after he had to say something about that, he probably started to get distracted, like, let me just say something and then let me finish my thought. But I thought it total pro. Great answer to the question.
For sure.
Well,
that. When you've played 10 years in the NFL and you've coached 10 years between college and the NFL, you've gone through a lot more, tough spots than just a car alarm going off. But, yeah, I think he also elongated his answer for me so that I could get my bearings. But, yeah, we got it under control. It's all good. But speaking of that, come join me, won't you? Tooele down here at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy, 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come down. Check me out. We got some pizza for you. I'm looking at 4 pizza boxes right in front of me. I'm about to have some myself. So if you don't come down, I might just be 40 pounds heavier and have all the pizza in my belly. So come down, check me out. Like I said, Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy, 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. And we're giving away Keith Urban tickets, I believe, and we're also giving away some, tickets to see the men's basketball team? What else we got, James?
Yeah, that's what we got. Keith Urban later in the show. We'll have another Keith Urban trivia question during Topical Trivia, 1 o'clock hour. So you got to be listening to the whole show to make sure you catch the question there. But then also... yeah, running Utes versus Radford on Saturday. Top 10 Radford is not a great matchup, but you can go.
But
go
college
see
games
some
are
free
fun no matter what.
Man. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. My buddy was telling me I should go to the women's games. He said I should go to every. He went to Washington State, so he said that he would go to. He said that he went to all the basketball games. He loves the environment, and there really is nothing like the college environment. So yeah, I'll have to check out at least a game or two while I'm out here. But come on down, visit me, get some pizza, get some tickets, concert tickets, sporting event tickets, all that good stuff. And, again, we started the show. Alex Smith inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame yesterday morning. We're going to try to effort him. He's a big fish. He's like Moby Dick. So it might not be attainable, but I just want the listeners to know that we are trying to do that. But I put up the poll question at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Does Alex Smith's induction to the College Football Hall of Fame cement him as the greatest Ute quarterback of all time? Yes? Or do you think it's still up for debate? And then I'm just trying to get some excitement riled up amongst the Ute fans out there to realize that if you look back on Alex Smith's time here as a Utah Ute, then you will be happy to know that the offense that you're going to be running next year is going to look a lot more like it did when he was here than what you've seen over the past decade or so. Okay, our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job done right the first time. Coming up, bottom of the hour, some NBA talk, trade talk already heating up. And I'll tell you why. People think that the most important date in December is maybe the championship game of the NBA Cup on the 17th, or maybe they think it's Christmas Day on the 25th. Contraire. It is the 15th. I will tell you why. Plus, get a little bit into more about guys that are going to be pulling out of bowl games. You've been seeing that over the years, so we'll touch on that. Plus, never too early for an NFL mock draft. So I don't even know what point 2.0, 2.64, 3.98. I don't know what version they're on, but I've got the most recent one, and I was a little surprised to see what I saw. So we'll do that and much, much more. You can always text in or call in 877-353-0700. Again, 877-353-0700. I'll pull the text line up here in a second and read off some texts and some tweets and all that good stuff, maybe give an early result on the poll. All that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
the number one recruit in high school basketball is going to BYU.
Excuse me?
Huh? Saw that news yesterday, and I go, wait, hold on. This is the number one recruit for next season is going to BYU. And I go, I'll be damned. Danny Ainge got them to spend some money.
Because when you think of college basketball,
yes.
think of BYU, the Blue Bloods.
Wow. That one surprised me, but there you go with NIL. That's where you say, all right, do you guys want to be a big-time program? We can do this. We can spend the money.
There you go. That was Dan Patrick. He had a very similar reaction to me and probably most people across the country. And that was him on how surprised he was that the number one overall high school recruit, A.J. DeBonsa, chose BYU. Sound courtesy of this morning's Dan Patrick Show, which you can hear every morning leading into the Sean O'Connell Show from 7 to 11 here on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Shock. Yeah, I mean, Kansas, you wouldn't bat an eye. North Carolina, ho-hum. Duke, of course. Hell, even Alabama, which was one of the ones on his list, they have established themselves over the past few years as a program to be reckoned with. I mean, you hear Alabama, you think football.
Final Four last year.
Exactly. Yeah,
they're on the rise. Nate Oates. Yeah, I'm with you. But also, I mean, BYU certainly made some noise last year, but yeah, it's shocking from a national perspective. But the rumors of BYU offering $5 to $7 million for him in NIL, and Spence Checketts yesterday I think said it was closer to the 5 than the 7 that they ended up giving him. But yeah, we were hearing those rumors, and so people around here and BYU insiders were not near as shocked as as people were nationally and as Dan Patrick was. But it's still like you don't. Like, BYU doesn't beat North Carolina and Kansas for basketball recruits. So, yeah, you can understand the shock nationally. But, like, Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge and the other booster base they have down in Provo, they were certainly motivated to make this happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was listening to Spence, too, on my drive home. I was listening to the drive on my drive. And he said, I believe, I might have got this wrong, so forgive me, and this is not a quote of Spence. It is me paraphrasing what I think I remember him saying, which was that I think Kansas was willing to meet the amount that BYU spent, and North Carolina was not. But that still means, first of all, I'm sure North Carolina was in the realm, was in the stratosphere.
They only offered about 4.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know the number. I'm making a joke.
No, yeah.
Hey, they only offered about 4, so I'm not going to go there.
Well, I mean, I hate to bring up Juan Soto again, but I mean, he did not choose the Mets because of the suite or because it was $5 million more. He was choosing the Mets organization over the Yankees organization and possibly their future. And so what I'm saying, the reason why this is even bigger for BYU, this was not an instance where he got $7 million from BYU and North Carolina and Kansas were only offering 1 or 2, and there was that big of a gap. I'm sure it was close enough. And if you read his quotes, obviously he's not going to come out and say it was all about the money. There are some people that think Juan Soto, no matter who offered the most, like he would have went to Toronto if they had offered 806. I find that hard to believe. I think that, especially with the quotes that you saw from DJ, that this was a scenario. I'm sorry, AJ. This was a scenario of him talking about the program and all of the NBA caliber personnel that they had on their staff. He was choosing this. He believes that BYU is the best program to help him get to the NBA. And when the number one recruit in the nation, which obviously is also going to be the projected number one pick in the NBA draft, is saying that about your program, as I said yesterday, this is not just about getting him this year. This is about what this means for guys that you can get down the line. So that was an absolute huge, huge pickup for BYU. And, I mean, this guy, I watched the highlights, and, I mean, I've heard comps of Tracy McGrady. I think SAG. There was other guy. When I watched him, I don't even know what to call. And this kind of happened with Wemby also. It's like you watch these guys and you're like, well, how am I supposed to compare him to somebody when I've never seen anything like this? Like, yeah, you could say Wemby is like, I don't know, Kevin Durant, but he's taller than him, and he's got a better post game than him. And so it's when I watch highlights of this guy, I mean, yeah, you could throw anybody at me and it would be fine. And obviously, honestly, he's a combination of all of them. He's like Kevin Durant. Yes, he's like T-Mac. Yes, he's everybody. He's everybody combined. I mean, I don't mean to put too much hype on it, but you go watch the highlights for yourself and you tell me who's a good comp for him, because I can see a lot of different NBA players in him. So obviously that was major news and a big get for BYU. So sometimes, you just got to tip your cap. Sometimes you just go, look, you know what? Wow. Because I even heard Spence, forgive me, James, but remind me, what's the city that BYU is in?
Provo.
He said, yeah, I don't often go down to Provo. He said, I'll be going down to Provo
yeah.
a lot.
Go to watch some basketball. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
for sure.
It's awesome for BYU, and to bring up something Spence said yesterday again, we're just recycling everything from the drive today. But he had said that this is why Utes fans got to hope that Utah can find its Ryan Smith among its booster base, can motivate some, because they got wealthy donors as well and wealthy boosters as well up at the University of Utah, to motivate them to spend a little bit more on the basketball program, and they still need to spend a little bit more on the football program for sure too, if they want to keep rising up and have a turnaround from a really disappointing year. But certainly the basketball program, they need to be motivating their Ryan Smith type guys, or finding their Ryan Smith type boosters that have that kind of deep pockets to be able to compete in the big time college basketball, like BYU has shown that they can.
Yeah, no doubt. And just to pay off my tease from the previous segment,
yes,
I was saying that, some people might think December 17th is the most important day of December for the NBA, because that's when the NBA championship game, the NBA Cup championship game takes place. Some people say Christmas. A lot of people joke. I've heard the joke a million times that the NBA doesn't start until Christmas Day, because they used to rule Christmas Day until the NFL stepped in and said, oh, wait, yeah, we're just going to mop you. We're going to mop the floor with you in terms of ratings, because we're going to put games on Christmas, because why not? And the numbers were staggering last year, with the NFL constantly needing to show that they're king and flexing their muscles. However, it is neither the championship game on the 17th nor Christmas Day. The most important day of the month is December 15th, which is this Sunday. On December 15th, free agents who signed in the offseason are officially eligible to be traded. According to ESPN's Bobby Marks, this applies to 85 players. There are a number of new restrictions from the new CBA, meaning not every player may be easy to trade immediately, but buyers like the Lakers, Warriors, Sixers, and sellers like the Bulls, Wizards, and Pelicans, and maybe the Jazz, will all become aggressive after the 15th. Reading from the article, most in-season trades won't happen until the NBA trade deadline on February 6th, when teams have better ideas regarding their biggest needs, but the possibilities are endless. And there's the two big names that I've seen thus far, one from Michael Wilbon, who I respect unconditionally. I love that guy. I've been watching PTI for, I think it's over 2 decades now. So I was watching that when I was 19, 20. And I love Michael Wilbon. He's been constantly pushing, and I don't know if any of this is coming from sources or if this is just what he personally wants, but he's been pushing LeBron to the Warriors. Obviously, Steph and LeBron this past summer really enjoyed playing together on the same team in the Olympics. It's weird to review Steph and LeBron and KD as like the elder statesmen, but those three really enjoyed playing with each other during the Olympics. So he's been floating LeBron from the Lakers to the Warriors. And then the other big name, and I saw this coming a mile away. Look, nobody loves Jimmy Butler more than me. I love Jimmy
Same.
Buckets. I
love
his,
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I love his competitive nature. I love the fact that when he was with Minnesota, he thought that the other starters were too soft, so he took the bench players and him and didn't even take a shot and beat them in a scrimmage in practice. But there's one element of Jimmy that's just Jimmy being Jimmy, and that's Jimmy's difficult to work with.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like the Seinfeld episode when Jimmy spoke in third person. I wouldn't be shocked if Jimmy spoke in third person. But he shows up to media day with a crazy haircut. You know, at one time it was a poofed out afro. The other time he had it straight down, and he had like a lip ring and eyeliner. He was emo Jimmy is what they called him. He's a little bit difficult to work with. So I saw this coming a mile away because he wanted an extension from the Heat, and the Heat were more like, you're going to have to earn that extension. So I saw this coming from a mile away. The Heat aren't off to the greatest start, and so I think the Heat are going to move him before the deadline. And the teams that have been rumored for him are the Warriors again, because Warriors fans are pretty fed up that they're wasting some prime years that Steph still has left in the tank. So they're going to be probably in on every trade rumor. Kuminga is constantly a name of whether or not they want to part with him. Some people think that they should just stick with him and he's part of the next chapter. Some people say let's end this chapter by forgetting about the next chapter. We'll worry about that later. But the Warriors are in the mix, and then the Mavericks. I looked into the Mavericks thing. That's going to be tough to do based on the cap. And now I didn't read all 9,000 pages of the new CBA, but there's these things called floors and aprons, and once you hit a certain threshold, then it goes up a ton. So I don't know if Dallas would be able to work it out. But the intriguing one to me, and I may or may not have laid down, a few fun dollars, monopoly dollars, on the Rockets over-under win total before the season started, because I'm a big fan of their coach, Ime Udoka. And he came over from Boston. He had some controversy over there. So, I mean, he did not leave Boston because he wasn't doing a good job coaching. He left Boston because he got into some off-the-court stuff. But I've always believed in him as a coach, and he's doing a fantastic job with the Rockets. Not that I'm keeping track or anything because of my Monopoly money bet, but they're on pace to go well over their over-under that went in before. And they've got a lot of draft picks and a lot of young players that they could move for Jimmy Butler to win now. I don't know if all those young guys are necessarily ready to win now, but that could be an interesting trade partner. So, yeah, come this Sunday, the 15th, all of those free agents who signed in the offseason are eligible to be traded. So it seems like it's early in the season. And, look, the NBA is easy to get lost when the NFL is still in high gear, and that probably won't end until February or whenever the Super Bowl's over. Well, they'll have the 2-week period where the NBA can kind of have their own little ratings dominance there. But, the trade rumors are already sparking up, and I love all that stuff. I've often said about the NBA, oftentimes their offseason is more entertaining than their regular season. Like I used to rank it. It's not more entertaining than the playoffs, but I used to rank it NBA playoffs, NBA offseason, NBA regular season, which is in large part why you're seeing something like the in-season tournament to try to gain interest both with the players and with the fans, because as I've often said, if the players look like they don't care about the regular season, why should I? Now, I'm a diehard basketball fan, so I'll eat it all up no matter what. Hell, I even watch some preseason games, even summer league games, but I am the exception, not the rule. So there you have it. All right, coming up next, some fun in the 40s. Not sure if you saw this, James, but on Tuesday, the trailer for the 30 for 30 about Mark Gastineau, the guy whose single-season sack record was broken by what many people think was a sham and forced and orchestrated and not real, fake, all that stuff. When Michael Strahan broke it, it looked a lot like Brett Favre took a dive. And in his response, in his tweet, which I'll read, he essentially admits that he didn't quite play it the way he normally would have if the game wasn't out of hand. So we'll get to that and much, much more. Fun in the 40s is what we try to shoot for. This one will be fun in the 50s. And make sure you come down and you join me. I'm over here in Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy, 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. We got some pizza here. We're giving away tickets. And ESPN 700, The Road Home, and Rocky Mountain Chevy have all partnered up this year to invite all of you to help those less fortunate this holiday. So come on by with necessities like blankets, coats, shoes, hats, gloves, anything like that, please bring them by here at Tooele Motor Company or any of your nearby Chevy dealers. All right, coming up next, quick segment, fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s, all that good stuff. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Oh, yeah. Jam out a little bit if you're riding around in your car. It's about lunchtime, which means you should be coming down and seeing me. That's what you should be doing. We're over here at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy, 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come on down. We got some Little Caesars pizza. I got halfway through mine in the commercial break. I'll do the other half in the next one. But it's good. It's tasty indeed. I took pepperoni. I'm a pepperoni guy. But if you're like some of my friends that say, I don't like pork on my fork, I believe we have some cheese as well. And we're giving away tickets. Keith Urban, check out some we got is it just Utah men's basketball tickets that we got, James?
Yeah, running Utes basketball coming up this Saturday against Radford.
Running Utes indeed. All righty. Well, yeah, come on down, get some tickets, eat some food. If you're taking your lunch break, like I said, it's just about noon. So come on down and enjoy some of that. All right, fun in the 50s real quickly here before we get to my people down here at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy. Just saw some stories that kind of caught my eye. And one of them, James, I don't know if you know about this story. How many years ago? When was the last time Brett Favre took a snap in the NFL?
Man,
what are we talking?
2010 season, I think.
2010 season? Okay.
Yeah.
So for those that
About
don't know.
15 years.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago. Decade and a half. I'll forgive you if you don't remember. But it was Packers-Giants. I believe it was in New York. And the game is out of hand. The game's pretty much over. Brett Favre drops back. And it looks like, to the naked eye and what most people thought, he took a dive. And the reason why, that wouldn't normally matter, right? Maybe he slipped, or maybe he was just wanted the clock to run down because the game was over. You wouldn't really think anything of it. Unfortunately, Michael Strahan was the one that landed on top of him when he fell down, and that allowed him to break the season sack record of all time. Now, the person that's not too happy about this is former New York Jet Mark Gastineau. And did you see the trailer for this, James?
I've been seeing the clips all day on social media. Yeah, it's wild.
I don't know exactly when that event took place, but I remember reading about it, James. I remember reading that they had it was at some autograph convention thing. And I remember reading that that there was a confrontation and reading that they kind of got into it or whatever, but I had never seen it. And I don't think the footage had ever gotten released until they released it yesterday. But basically, ESPN put out the footage of Mark Gastineau. Brett Favre's approaching him to, like, shake his hand. Mark does not put his hand out, James. And
it gets awkward.
Yeah, awkward is an understatement. He's
heated and awkward.
Yeah, he basically said, hey, man, you ruined me, man. You hurt me, man. And Brett Favre is like, I'm sure Brett Favre knew who he was, but you couldn't really tell by the way that they, like, it was almost as if Brett Favre either A, didn't know who he was, or B, certainly didn't know that he had made Mark so angry.
Yeah, he was certainly taken aback.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for. Brett Favre was taken aback, but Mark wasn't playing. Like, no. He was shaking. He didn't, like, punch him or anything, but I believe he pointed a finger, which is, obviously a little bit hostile. He pointed his finger at him in his face and told him that
he did an AD point the finger in the face move.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, needless to say, I'm now very intrigued to watch that. And I could understand where he's coming from. I mean, that pretty much was – Mark Gastineau is not a name, at least in my age range, that you just know off the top of your head. But I think people that watched football in the 70s and 80s or whatever probably know his name more offhand. But that was probably his claim to fame, that he was the all-time sack leader. And for that to be what he views as stolen from him, and I sort of agree. I mean, I'm torn on this a little bit. Part of me's like, don't take it so seriously. Favre and Strahan were friends. He was just doing them a solid or whatever. But then you see how much it impacted, and especially for a guy like Mark Gastineau, James, he doesn't need, I should say, Brett Favre and Michael Strahan don't need any more fame or money. Like, they're going to be fine and set for life. Mark Gastineau was probably going to autograph functions and signing autographs, saying all-time sack leader.
He's
like
sack
that was
king, yeah.
Exactly. And then so if that's the one thing that he's kind of living off of, and it'd be one thing if Strahan got it, like let's say the game was in overtime and, Favre is rolling out and Strahan's coming from his blind side and he hits him and he gets it organically in the right way, then I'm sure he wouldn't be upset. But when the whole world is in on it and knows that basically it was handed to him, I hate to say it, I'm usually not the man on my lawn guy, James, but I'm on Mark's side on this.
Yeah, I think I am too. Now that was I looked it up. That was from the 2001 season that when Strahan broke that record and Favre allegedly took a dive to help his friend out there in the last game of the season. And I wasn't a huge NFL fan at that time, so I don't remember watching it, hearing about all of this from the time. But I have heard of it since then, and I don't know who Mark Gastineau is until today. I'll be honest with you. I had no idea who he was, but Dan Patrick did a good job of putting his career in perspective. He had 96 sacks in a 5-year span. The only one in that same 5-year span, it was 80s into the 90s, early 90s, I think. The only one who had more was Reggie White. And that's the only person who had more in NFL history in a 5-year span than Mark Gastineau. So this guy,
wow,
an all-time elite pass rusher. A lot of people believe that he's been snubbed for the Hall of Fame. I'm sure he believes that, for sure. So I think that this was the one thing that he could really hang his hat on, because he's probably given up on his Hall of Fame dreams at this point, or is close to. And so the fact that his big record that he thought would keep him immortal, even without the Hall of Fame, was kind of taken away on what looked like a choreographed, hey, I'm going to help out my friend and help him break the single-season record. Yeah, I can understand why you'd be pretty upset by that, and why he'd confront Brett and say, I was hurt by that,
Yeah.
On the other hand, like, that was a long time ago. Like, you be good for you if you let it go.
Yeah.
But clearly you look at him and he does not look like he's in a good way in that video. So I don't know if there's things in the way of him being able to let something like that go.
Yeah, well, the rules were a lot different, and a lot of the athletes from former decades, their bodies were not treated the way that they are now. So a lot of those guys are dealing with health issues long after their careers. He might be one of those guys. I don't know, but hopefully this thing comes out. My advice to him, if he was a buddy of mine, I'd be like, look, keep going to these autograph sessions and sign it the real Sack King, because the other one's Fugazi. You know what I mean? That's what I would tell him to do. But anyways, all right. So coming up at the top of the hour, we are going to be joined by Scott Mitchell. How does he feel about Alex Smith getting inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame? But as I've been telling you, all hour long, 1 hour in the books, 2 more to go. I am down here at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy, 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come join me. We got some pizza. We got tickets to give away. And right now, more importantly, come down and help out the less fortunate. Help bring cheer, stability, warmth, and improve someone's life with simple donations. You can bring it right on down here. We'll make sure it gets to all the right places. This is one of the drop-off locations all around Utah. And with me right now is the general sales manager. I've been messing up names all week, Edgar, so I'm going to give your last name a shot. Don't hold it against me. You'll be in rarefied air if I mess it up. Edgar Sotomayor.
Close.
Mayor.
Very close. Sotomayor.
Sotomayor.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I can roll the tongue and everything. Sotomayor. Edgar, tell the people why they should come on down, and thanks for joining me. Thanks for having me.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out here today. We really appreciate the support for this. All we really want to do is give back to the community. That's one of the things I love about our industry when we get an opportunity to do this. So I think supporting the Roadhouse is a great way to do that. We have a wonderful community here in Tooele that's always supported us throughout the years. And us being able to give back really means a lot to us.
Yeah.
So we encourage everybody to come out here, bring all the things that we need, gloves, blankets, clothing, whatever you can. Come in and say hello to me. I'll be glad to be happy to meet with you. And we just appreciate the support.
Yeah.
We sell cars. Yeah, of course, everybody knows that. And if you want to take one for a test drive while you're here, hey, I'll be glad to help you with that also. But it's more important for us to collect the items we need and be able to support the community.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I got off the airport, that chill, that'll punch you like Tyson.
Yes,
that chill hit me right, and then my ears stick out a little bit.
So
make sure you bring beanies, scarves, and then my extremities. I get cold. I need some gloves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So make sure you get that to the less fortunate that definitely need it. It's great that you're doing it. So thank you for joining me. All right, coming up, top of the hour. Time to talk with the one, the only, Scott Mitchell for the Big 12 at noon. We'll talk to him about the Alex Smith induction, what he makes of the call. It's been a while since I talked to Scott. It's been at least a couple of weeks. So what he makes of all the changes, the transfer portal, the offensive coordinator change, that much, much more with Scott coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. The PM portion of your day begins now with yours truly, Zakariah, on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, I like to go around the NFL and some stories that have come out just since yesterday. That's the beauty of the NFL It never sleeps. NFL's up 24/7, so we'll talk about that. Bottom of the hour, as always. Check out the polls, interact, tweet at me, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. The station is at ESPN 700. And you can always text in or call in 877-353-0700. But right now, it is time for the Big 12 at noon, brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Visit them at mountainlandsupply.com. And we do that with the one, the only, a guy that can make a case for himself for best quarterback at Utah of all time. My friend, our first interview, I thought he was going to hate me afterward. He actually liked me more, which is why I know we're going to be good friends. It's the one, the only, Scott Mitchell. How are you, Scotty?
I'm doing great. You know, it's the middle of December. It's almost Christmas time. Life is good.
Yeah, so I was listening to you. It wasn't me and you doing the interview. I think you were on with OC, and you mentioned something about being a fisherman. You're an avid fisherman. What do you catch? Do you catch to eat, or do you catch and release?
Fishing's been a part of my life as long as I can remember. I've certainly done both. I mean, I love fish. So the one thing that's really nice here in the state of Utah is they've stocked our reservoirs with and lakes with kokanee salmon, and there's nothing better than smoked kokanee salmon. But my real passion is saltwater fly fishing. So inshore, back country, you know, tarpon, bonefish, and permit. That's what I love.
Nice. Yeah, the only real one time I went in Lake Michigan and I caught a big old something or whatever. I mean, it was huge. But most of the time, because I only go when I go in Michigan. I'd love to go with you sometime, but when I go in Michigan, we catch bluegill just in regular freshwater lakes and stuff like that. But yeah, I love it. You know, it took me a while. I'm a city slicker, so it took me a couple of years just to be able to get a worm on the hook. But now I can take the hook out of the mouth and all that good stuff. But people aren't tuned in for the fishing, Scotty. They're tuned in for some college football talk. And let's talk about all the changes surrounding the Utes now. We haven't. I don't think you and I have done an interview since all of these major changes. But what do you make of the changes that have been made, the people that are going to be entering and exiting the portal? To me, it makes a lot of sense. When you're going to totally have an upheaval of your offensive style, you're going to have the personnel change as well. But what do you make of just how different the offense is going to look for the Utes in 2025 versus how it's looked for the past decade?
Well, we should talk about fishing then, because that's what everyone's doing right now. Is they've gone
transfer portal. Very good, Scott. Yes.
So it's an interesting world we live in college football, and because of it, I think you talk about the look of what Utah's offense needs to be in the future, and I know this is something that's front and center on Coach Whittingham's mind about really getting an offense that's dynamic, that can be productive, and fit in with what you have to deal with changing over your roster so many times. It's really hard to have a system that is somewhat intricate and complex, and that's really what Andy Ludwig's system was, and it's a good system. They won 2 Pac-12 championships with it, so won a lot of games. We had an undefeated season with it, and won the Sugar Bowl. So a lot of good things Andy did, but kind of got caught when Cam Rising was hurt, and so it's can you create a system that you can plug in all these new guys that went out fishing in the portal, and you hooked them on a line and brought them in, and can you really be productive with them? And I think it's a hard ask. I mean, if I'm being completely frank about it, it's because you go, well, we have to dumb it down, and I don't want to, dumb is a wrong word, but we have to kind of be basic.
Simplify,
in a lot of things we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so if we're really basic, is it easy to defend, or is everybody else kind of in the same situation where they kind of have to, dumb it down defensively, because every team's kind of dealing with this same issue, and so I think it's finding to be as dynamic as you possibly can without paralyzing your players, because I think you saw that happening with Utah the last couple of years, when Cam Rising wasn't playing. Because remember, Cam got to sit and watch for a long time, and he'd been in the program a long time, so he was very familiar and comfortable with the system. And the guys that came into play, weren't as comfortable or as skilled, and those two things really hurt this team. But I hope that they can accomplish it. I remain to be a cautiously optimistic. I think it's a tough thing. I think it's one of those unintended consequences of the transfer portal and NIL that people maybe didn't totally think through. I look at a guy like Arch Manning, who's at Texas, and he easily could have gone fishing, and he would have. Talk about a catch. He could have made some serious bank and probably gone anywhere in the country.
Just on his last name alone, Scotty. Just on his last name alone. Yeah.
Exactly, and yet, he's with some people that are pretty smart and savvy, and says, look, we got a good situation, we got a good coach, we got a good system at Texas, and wait your turn and learn and really do well when you have your opportunity, and be mature. Because they understand how mature and how developed you need to be when you go to the NFL. You look at some of these guys like Caleb Williams, who everyone thought was a surefire, and he's kind of had struggles. Not saying he's not going to be that guy, but you really need to be mature and at a high level of confidence and being able to execute in the pros, and leaving early. You look at Zach Wilson at BYU, left early. Was he really ready for it? Who knows? But I think staying somewhere is a much smarter play for almost all these guys. And I know that it's about money, and some of them get money, and maybe it's the only money they're ever going to get. But I just think sticking it out, continuity, learning, developing, and growing, and then when you really get an opportunity to play, then you're really going to make the most of it and do well. And I don't know that that's ever going to exist. There may be some people like an Arch Manning that have the common sense to do it. Maybe more people will see that as this thing unfolds in the future.
Talking with Utah Ute great Scott Mitchell right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zachariah filling in. Yeah, Scott, I've said it probably 10 times on these airwaves, but I'll say it 1 billion more times when it comes out of the mouth of what most people think is the greatest college football coach of all time, and Nick Saban. But a lot of people thought that he left because of the NIL and the transfer portal, but when he gave the explanation for why, he talked a lot about how it's pretty much impossible to have depth in college anymore, because if guys don't think that they're going to start or aren't currently starting, then they're going to go somewhere else. And before all of that, he used to have, his second string teams would be most college programs starting, team one for most programs was his second and third string guys. Right. So I think, you're not going to see a lot of what you're talking about, but I agree with you, unless there are the cases where guys like Manning, as you said, stay, and that ends up being good for them, then maybe you'll see more of it. But I echo your point.
But it's an interesting point about Saban. Not only are his second and third guys ones, but think about if you go to Alabama before NIL and you go to practice every day, and every day for 3 or 4 years, as you're growing and developing, you're playing against NFL caliber guys in practice every day. And if that doesn't prepare you or really accentuate your development or your talent, there's no better way to do it. And that's one of those things I don't think anyone talks about. I've mentioned this before, how these programs, these great programs, just having that elite talent to work and practice against every week just makes you so much better as a player, along with playing in a conference with really good talent, and your development just goes further because you're playing against better guys, and now it's a little bit more watered down, and I don't know that that's all bad, because we're going to see different teams. You see it, like, where the heck did SMU come from? Where did Arizona State come from? Where you guys are willing to go where there's money, or even Colorado. Colorado, like, if you're willing to pay players, you can improve your program, and you can do it in a hurry, which is the upside of this. But it is going to maybe have a positive impact, and maybe the SEC and the Big Ten aren't as big a conglomerate as they've been in the past. I don't know if that's all bad.
Yeah, well, I like to get personal with you, Scott, and you've given me no reason to not continue to do so. But I'm fascinated by your life and specifically your football career. So I ask you, when you were coming up, both in college and in the NFL, how many different ways of running an offense were there? Like I know Seifert came along with the West Coast offense. That was in like the late 80s, early 90s, around when you were playing. But like when you played, there was an RPO and spread offense, was there?
Oh, okay. Hold on. I have been so fortunate in my life to be exposed to some of the greatest football philosophy and to be coached by some of the best minds ever to coach in football. And if you want a history of football and offensive evolution, I'll be here. I'm your man. I'll just tell you right now.
Well, we got to grab lunch. I'm out here for 2 weeks, Scott. We got to grab lunch, and maybe we could do it there. But okay. I just remember growing up.
But really, what it is I don't think that people are inventing a new offensive philosophies. They're just kind of putting, a spin, because the concepts are very similar. And by the way, the West Coast offense was started by Mike Brown. Is it Mike Brown? Mike Brown is the
Browns. That's the Browns owner, right?
But why can't I remember his name? Paul Brown.
Paul Brown. Yeah.
Back when the Cleveland Browns were the Cleveland Browns, before he had the Cincinnati Bengals. And he started having meetings and playbooks, and the offense I was in with the Miami Dolphins started all the way back with Johnny Unitas when Coach Shula was with the Baltimore Colts, and then part of those concepts went with me to Detroit, and Tom Moore, who was our offensive coordinator, incorporated a lot of those schemes into our system, which he took to Peyton Manning, and Tom Moore then took it with Bruce Arians to the Cardinals and to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tom Moore is 87 years old. He's still coaching in the NFL today with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, using the same concepts that I used back when I played, that I learned from Don Shula all the way back to Johnny Unitas, almost the origins of the NFL. And they're still running the same concepts today. He goes, I used that stuff with Tom Brady when he won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it may be called something different, West Coast spread, this, that, but it's the concepts have been around for some. I don't know that anyone's really. In fact, the first play I ever threw in the NFL was a bubble screen, and that stuff was happening, years ago.
Okay, all right, but I mean, it is going to look drastically different for the Utes next year offensively, right? Going from a pro-style offense to more of a spread and RPO-style offense.
Yeah, and I think RPO kind of happened by accident, because that stuff was it was kind of around, because like, man, if I just held this ball right here, they're really sucked up on the run. We've got a really hard run look, and if I just pop it to that wide receiver pretty quick, that's a good play. So, I'm not like overly like, oh, let's do RPO stuff and just really blow the socks off of people. I still think you have to have sound concepts that I personally wouldn't want to make a living off of just running an RPO type of offense.
One more thing, any college expert that I bring on, I got to ask them. It's the first year of the 12-team playoff. Were there any surprises for you? How do you feel about conference champions getting a first-round bye? How do you feel about the higher seeds getting what's going to be for the first time in the playoff actual home games in their stadium? Yeah. What do you make after we've gotten the bracket finalized? What have you made of the first year of the 12-team playoff?
Well, it's just more of the same, but it's certainly making bowl games that were becoming kind of boring really, really interesting, and having playoff games in your home stadium might be more exciting than actually getting a bye. Really, I mean, I don't know that it'd be fun. I think of Rice Eccles to have a home playoff game against their quality opponent, and how exciting that would be, and the finality of it, because it's like win or go home, and that just creates a whole excitement. I love the whole format of everything, and more people getting an opportunity. I love that you've got a a Big 12 opponent. You've got a Mountain West opponent, that are representing, and I like that it's spread around. But if you really look through the brackets and realistically, who's going to win, you're going to end up where you used to be, where you had the 2 semifinal games, and it's going to be heavily laden with the Big Ten and the SEC, which is what it always was. The only difference is now the SEC and the Big Ten have 4 or 5 teams represented in the college football playoffs, so it's just more money from these playoff games that they make for themselves and their conference, and so it's kind of the rich get richer. And I don't know that at the end of the day, a champion will be different than it has been in recent years, but it certainly makes the college bowl season and the playoffs really, really interesting, at least for me.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more like the NFL, and what we've learned is they want more games, they want more playoff bursts, they want more games to air so that there's more money for everybody, and the players can complain about it, but at the end they're going to benefit from it as well. Scott, always enjoy your time. I'm here until next Friday, so we got to get together and have lunch one of these days, and always appreciate your time. Happy holidays, and enjoy the rest of your day.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
There you go, Scott Mitchell, brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet Murray. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. All right, coming up, bottom of the hour, seems to be a theme going on with the NFL. Drama, 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 and it's coming on the heels of winning. We've talked about the Philadelphia Eagles. But why another wide receiver seems to be a theme with these diva wideouts, but another wide receiver coming off of a win is causing some distractions in a locker room. We'll get to that and much, much more all around the NFL. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
You had a tweet that got a lot of attention yesterday. You care to expand on your feelings or what you wanted to convey with that?
I mean, you read what you read. A little frustrated for sure.
Kyle and Brock said that you guys talk just about daily. Is getting touches and things like that something that's discussed during those kinds of conversations?
100%, yeah.
Do you see that? Do you sense that? I mean, as soon as you get the ball, that there's like 3 or 4 guys out there on the perimeter.
I mean, there's 3 or 4 guys no matter who got the ball.
Cyclical with guys getting touches. You expect to come back around for you, right, in terms of
when it comes, it comes.
There you go. That was not Sean O'Connell, as you heard the big voice say. Neither is this. This is Zakariah filling in on the Sean O'Connell Show, and that was Deebo Samuel answering questions yesterday about what he tweeted on Monday, quote, from his Twitter account, not struggling at all, just not getting the ball, end quote. That sound was courtesy of KMBR. The Niners host the Rams tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football, which you can hear right here on ESPN 792.1 FM. I don't understand why people tweet stuff and then delete it. The second you tweet, somebody has a screenshot of it. You are never going to get away with a tweet that you put out if you're famous. So you might as well just leave it up, especially if when they come to interview about it, you said you're going to say you read what you read.
Yeah, like if you're just doubling down the way Deebo did, then why delete it? I mean, maybe someone from his
camp.
Personal camp, his personal like manager team who manages
Entourage.
his brand and stuff. Maybe it's the 49ers PR. Maybe they said, "Hey, you don't leave that up." But even in that case, like you would think that they would be whoever it is that might have told him to take it down would be coaching him on, okay, if you're asked about it, try to say this. But if you're just gonna double down, then just leave it up.
Yeah, just leave it up. I mean, I'm sure he was encouraged by his agent or whoever else, like you said, part of his crew to do it. Look, even in this business, which is 1/1000th of the amount of scrutiny and attention that athletes get, I know people in just sports broadcasting business that will not look at their tweets or look at the text line or whatever. I haven't now. If I was Pat McAfee, maybe it would be different. But at least in my instance, I welcome the good and the bad. I'm able to either laugh or read and use it as fodder, the bad, and then I just soak in all the good. You know, that's just the way that I look at it. I don't let the bad ones get me down, and I don't let actually I do let the good ones get me up, and I don't let the bad ones get me down. So I don't know why these athletes, I mean, James, I've read reports that athletes are checking their mentions at halftime. Like, what are you doing, man? You're a professional athlete. Who cares about what, little Tommy, who's 14 years old at his house, is saying about you on Twitter? He's hoping to get exactly what you're giving them, because I'm sure, James, and I'm not sure because I didn't see any mention of it in the story, but if I had to bet, I bet you he was reading his mentions, and people, mainly people that own fantasy teams and have him on their fantasy team, were complaining that he didn't have a huge stat line. And so he was probably responding to that. Like, I don't know if there was a specific tweet that he responded to, but dude, you're in the NFL. You got a fat contract. You were in the Super Bowl last year. And this is what is perplexing me over and over again, James. This is coming after a win. You beat the brakes off of the Bears at home. Why are you worried about what people are saying on Twitter, and why are you worried about your own personal performance? I've always been a proponent. Now, I didn't like sitting on the bench, don't get me wrong, and I wanted to play. But let's say I played and some guy had the hot hand and he scored 36 and I only scored 12 or 9 or whatever, but we won the game. I wasn't sitting there going, man, I didn't get enough points. I wasn't sitting there. I wasn't sulking, James. You know what I mean? I wasn't, I for the life of me, I don't really understand it even when you're losing, because you should be focusing that energy on getting better. But I certainly don't understand it, James, when you're winning. I just don't get it, why you're busy tweeting out, I'm not struggling at all, I'm just not getting the ball, coming off of a big time. It wasn't even a close game. You blew the brakes off of them. So you probably weren't even throwing the ball that much. But I just don't get all the disgruntlement about coming after wins. It should not be coming with wins. It should be coming with losses.
Absolutely. Like our guy Herm Edwards, who we had on earlier, says, your favorite quote, one of your favorite quotes from him, one of everyone's favorite quotes from him, you play to win the game.
Yeah.
And that
and
includes
also
you're on the team to win games. Like,
yes.
if your team's winning, yes, I mean, we're all human. Of course, we want more out of ourselves individually. We want more opportunities individually. But winning usually and I'm with you, should trump all of that. You still should feel pretty good after a win, regardless of the lack of opportunities you might have had in that win.
Yeah, and not only one of Herm's famous quotes of you play to win the game, but another one's applicable. Think before you hit send.
Yeah, think before you hit send.
If I was a famous person, I would run all of my tweets by all of my people before I sent it. And I'm sure, let's say Debo conservatively has a team of 3 people, like a PR person, an agent, and a manager or whatever. I'm sure one of those 3 people would be like, Debo, you're coming off a win. This is not going to be a good look. Let's think before you hit send. Sleep on it for 24 hours if you need to.
And let's have a conversation with someone who can actually do something about it, not sending it out to the world to just create drama. And listen, maybe he is, and maybe that's why. Maybe he had those conversations and he's not satisfied with them, and that's why he's like, well, I'm going to tell the world about it. I'm going to expose you all. But I tend to believe that that's not the case, because typically if you have a conversation, and I would think for a guy who's been that important to your team as Deebo Samuel has been to the San Francisco 49ers for however many years now, 2 different Super Bowl runs, like, you would think that if he had a conversation and said, hey, guys, like, I feel like we're struggling this season. I feel like we wouldn't be struggling as much if I had more opportunities, and I want to help us win, and I don't know why I'm not getting as many opportunities. If Deebo Samuel is saying that to Kyle Shanahan or whoever else in that who's in control of that offense, I can't imagine them not giving him a satisfactory conversation about it. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's almost the most important player on that offense, or has been for a number of years. Like, I think that they would hear him out, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's so many different better ways to go about it. He also could have worded, even if he wanted to respond, he could have worded the tweet better and just said, hey, look, we're coming off a big win. I don't really care who gets the ball. In this instance, the way that the play calling, the way that the offensive scheme dictated it is that, the ball didn't come my way a bunch, but that's fine. All I'm tripping off is that we got the win, and I'm sure, I'll have other games where I'm very productive. He could have said something like that, and it wouldn't have made headlines. But like the way that he worded it and the way that it was just short and sort of like he was complaining is just a bad look, and I just don't understand it. All right, Spence is live at the ARUP Blood Drive today. That's at 9786 South Sandy Parkway in Sandy. Save a life by giving blood today. That's something that I definitely need to do more of. Every time I hear or read about giving blood, I'm always like, that's something I could easily do. Now, over time, when I was a kid, I was a little skittish about needles and stuff. But all you got to do is look the other way, and they've gotten it down to a science now where you don't even feel it.
Plus, so you get like a cookie or something afterwards.
Oh yeah, or at least a sticker, so you can not be so humble. You could wear your sticker around town and let everybody know what a good person you are for giving blood. Or you could just do it anonymously. Do whatever you want, but go see Spence. Again, he's live at the ARUP Blood Drive today. That's 9786 South Sandy Parkway in Sandy. Save a life by giving blood today. Bother Spence for a selfie. Tell him that Zakariah sent you down there, and he specifically told you to bother him for a selfie. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that.
I don't think you're gonna have him on it for crosstalk for again.
No, I know. No, 2 days. No, I don't count the ones when he's on remote.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, those are just fine.
If he gets enough people bothering him, he might just be like, you know what? Screw this, Zakariah. I'm not talking to you during crosstalk. So let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. and in the meantime, do a very humanitarian thing and give some blood. And also, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those that rode home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer, but most specifically, do it at the one that I'm at. You get free pizza We're giving out tickets, all that good stuff. We're in Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy. I personally am at 1141 North Main Street. Come check me out. And also you can visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. All right, coming up next, fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s. They both start with an F, so it's fifth. Either way, you slice it and dice it. Taylor Swift gets all the clicks, James, so it's our duty to bring up Taylor Swift anytime she's in the news. She's in here a couple of times. One's related to, of course, her very also famous boyfriend, Travis Kelce, and possibly more famous now, brother, Jason Kelce, and then also Caitlin Clark. How are those two things tied in? And then also it's kind of going to be a freaky in the 40s and the 50s, James, because a kind of disturbing story about Joe Burrow and how he's not the only person that this has happened to this calendar year. So we'll get into that and much, much more. Don't forget, you can text in 877-353-0700. And then at the top of the hour, we will reboot the poll question: does Alex Smith's induction into the College Football Hall of Fame cement him as the greatest Ute quarterback of all time? We'll get to the poll. We'll get to your text messages and much, much more. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. Coming up at the top of the hour, we will speak with ESPN college football writer Kyle Banagura. Talk to him about, get his thoughts on the offensive coordinator position change for the Utes. Alex Smith getting inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. And, of course, his thoughts on the college football playoff. Those games start this Saturday, James?
No, it is the 19th and 20th, or maybe it's the 20th and 21st are the first round games.
So we got nada on Saturday?
Yeah, nothing on Saturday. I believe it's the Heisman ceremony Saturday. That's what they typically do, at the end of during finals weeks across the country, and then before the playoffs and many of the bowl games get started. So I believe that's this Saturday is a Heisman ceremony, and then playoff games coming up the following weekend. So, yeah, week off.
Yeah, I got one sound for that, James.
I know.
Heisman ceremony?
I know. Like, just tell us the results.
Nobody consumes more sports than me. I cannot do the Heisman show.
I'm with you.
I can't. And especially not this year when Travis Hunter last I checked in Vegas, isn't he like negative or minus 5,000 or something?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we already know. Some years there's some drama leading into Heisman ceremony, but then again, most years we kind of seem to know. Most people seem to have a consensus, it's this guy. But this year it feels way more of a foregone conclusion than most years. So, yeah, I'm with you. I've never really been a Heisman ceremony guy either.
Yeah, maybe when I'm show prepping tonight or tomorrow morning before the show tomorrow, I'll look up the last time we were shocked by a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Because Caleb, it was obvious. Then last year, Caleb was in the running again, but you knew they weren't going to give it to him back-to-back years, and we all knew Jaden Daniels was going to get it.
Bit of a disappointing year for he and USC the second year, too. So that was working against him. But, yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up because this one, I mean, it's like it's going to be all pop and circumstance. But you'd be shocked, James. I don't know what the average viewer is of the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but there are people that eat that up. To me, I can't do it. I mean, I might as well be watching golf, putting it on just to get a little doze off on, or maybe wait till like the last possible second for the speech, I guess. But it seems to be I hate to say it, one big waste of money. Like we could be giving all that money to the needy that we're trying to give over here at the dealership. Yeah. We could be giving the money for that.
You know what, Heisman Foundation, why don't you donate that to the Road Home, roadhome.org.
Yes, give it to roadhome.org because I bet you that costs a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah.
They probably fly all the previous winners out. They probably eat the finest food. They probably you have to pay a ton of people just to put it on, let alone the production people and the lighting and camera people. That thing probably costs a lot of money. They don't do that for the NFL. Like the MVP, they just announce it, right? They don't have a ceremony for that.
Still have, I believe they still have NFL awards that they started, 5-10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I was going to say, I'm kind of out on sports award shows in general. Like, we can just tell me what happened. I'll look at the tweet after it's awarded, okay? I don't need to watch an hour, 2-hour long show with all the pomp and circumstance. That's kind of where I've gotten with it.
The ESPYs can be fun depending on the host. But, yeah, for the most part, not a big deal. All right, time for fun in the 50s, fun in the 40s, whatever you want to call it. I teased that there was some Taylor swag news and how she could be tied into Caitlin Clark. Well, apparently, Caitlin Clark is not only a Swiftie herself and attended a concert in which Taylor Swift gave her 4 swag bags, as the kids call them, James. It included a note saying that she was inspiring to watch and that her and Travis were excited to catch a Fever game next season. Now, there's another tie-in because Caitlin Clark happens to be a lifelong Chiefs fan.
Which is why she's a Swiftie, right? Because of her Chiefs? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't know.
I'm sure she was a Swiftie before she started dating Travis. But
no, but that's actually a good point. I bet you that there are a lot of first-time Taylor Swift fans that are Chiefs fans and either didn't know her music or didn't give it the time of day because it wasn't their genre that are now Swiftie fans. And on the flip side, I bet you there are a lot of non-football fans that are fans of Taylor Swift that now like football because she's dating Travis Kelce. I would not be
way
shocked if
more
that cross-pollinates.
Way more of the second one than the first one, but yeah. I'm sure there's some of the first scenario there, but yeah.
So, anyways, the New Heights podcast that's like #1 with the Kelce brothers. It dropped Wednesday. It was the first one since Taylor Swift's Eras tour came to an end. You know, that thing was like 2 years long.
And, speaking of eras.
Yeah. And Travis knew the total amount of shows. Or he said it was either 149 or 153 or something. But he was at least close. And he quoted in saying, "Shout out to everybody that was a part of that show. It was the best tour in the world because of a lot of people, but mostly because of Taylor." Aren't they just so cute? Now, the holidays, Christmas is coming up. That's a popular time to propose, James. I don't know what month of the year you propose, but do you think that there could be a proposal coming between T. Swift and J. Kell?
Hey, J. Kell. Or Traveler, as I like to call
made
him.
That up. Oh, okay.
I could see it. I don't know that I would bet on it. I think that maybe they go longer in just the dating phase of things, at least a number of months longer. If I were to put some money down, I'd say that. But man, you're right. This time of year, and it seems like they've been dating a long time. It's only been maybe a little more than a year though. So maybe this is the time.
Yeah, and I teased this as well. I said it was going to be fun in the 40s and the 50s. This is going to be the freaky in the 40s and the 50s portion of this segment. Joe Burrow, his home was broken into during Monday night's football game against the Cowboys. It's the latest of home burglaries of pro athletes in the U.S. No one was injured, but the place was ransacked. Also, the homes of Chiefs stars Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were broken into in October. In the NBA, Milwaukee Bucks forward Bobby Portis had his home broken into November 2nd, and Minnesota Timberwolves guard Mike Conley's home was burglarized in September 15th.
Former Jazz man
while he was at a Vikings game. That's just creepy because they know your schedule. They know
really
you're going to be gone because they know you have a game at a scheduled time.
Well, and I'm sure you wrote it down in your notes here, but I was scrolling through the article myself yesterday. It looked like they were saying that police suspect that a lot of these burglars that may or may not be connected to all of these crimes were posing as, joggers or something unsuspecting. Yeah, delivery men and joggers, and just waiting for them to be gone to break in. Like that's kind of scary, kind of disturbing. And I had no idea. Like I saw the headline and I went, wait, why are we acting like this is a huge epidemic type thing? Then I read the article and I'm like, whoa. Because it is. Because there's lots of people across sports, lots of athletes having their homes burglarized right now. So, hopefully they can get this under control because it is definitely disturbing.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's a disturbing story. Why don't you be part of a feel-good story, which is doing what you can do to help this holiday? Come by, stop by, see me, see our team, check out some amazing Chevy vehicles, grab a little Caesar's Pizza while you're at it, and donate to the less fortunate. You can bring any sort of clothing, blankets, coats, shoes, hats, gloves, and I have the general sales manager, Edgar Sotomayor. Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it.
Hey, look at me, baby steps. He joins me right now. Edgar, tell the people why they should stop on by, not just for the cars, but to do something good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's to help out. I mean, it's a great cause to help the road home with all the needs that people less fortunate than we have. And we're really looking forward to the community stepping up and helping us meet our goals of supplying a lot of the needed stuff to the road home. One of the things we want to do to help with that is we're going to, if you bring in, donate something, once we've done your evaluation of the vehicle, if you trade something in, we're going to give you an additional $500. So if you bring you bring a new blanket in, some coats, some shoes, some gloves like we talked about earlier, we're going to do our part to help with that, and we'll give you an extra $500 in your trade. Not so much to make the deal, but to help you get motivated to bring something in. If you're going to come in anyway, hey, bring something to give to the less fortunate, especially this time of the year when it's so important to give back, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, especially when, look, most Utahians. Did I say that right? Utahns?
I've only been here 90 days, man, so I think it's right. We'll both get in trouble.
We'll take it. But, yeah, Utahns, especially, look, when it's cold like this, you got a roof over your head or you can afford heat or you got a fireplace. Think about the individuals that do not have that. Again, 1141 North Main Street. Out here in Tooele, come on down, come see me. He'll have $500 for you. I don't get paid enough for that. I'll have some pizza for you, though. You can come by and say hi, and we're giving away tickets both to see some music and to see some sporting events. So come on down. All right, coming up, top of the hour, it is time to speak with someone that's much more of an expert than I am when it comes to college football, part of the ESPN family. Kyle Bonagura, ESPN college football writer, will join me at the top of the hour, the final hour of the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, filling in right here at ESPN 700. Coming up at the bottom of the hour. Didn't get a chance to see it in person. I will be going next week, though, to my first ever Utah Hockey Club game, match. It's game in hockey, right? I always, you cannot say that in soccer. Particular fans of particular sports get very specific. For instance, in the NHL, I will never make the mistake again of calling it the NHL Finals. It is the NHL Final. There is no S on that. Do not mess that up.
Well, Stanley Cup Final.
Stanley Cup Finals. I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said NHL. No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm just being. I thought I'd chime in to represent those fans
I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you did. Yeah.
And
that's what I meant.
The other thing about it is that confuses you, both of us as NBA fans, is they call it the Western Conference and Eastern Conference championship, right? The championship series, but they call it the final, not the finals there too. So anyway, easy mistake to make with those.
I know. But I'm telling you, you will get killed for
I know,
that,
seriously.
Especially because hockey's considered the fourth, one of the big four between the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. So that fan base always feels slighted. So you make the little insiest bit of a mistake, James, and they will jump all over you. So I try to get it right as best as I can. But anyways, very frustrating game. It's never good when you let up the tying goal. It seems like with hockey, you're never safe until it's all zeros, especially in hockey more than any of the other sports. But they let up a tying goal with 43.2 seconds to go, so we'll get into that a little bit. And then something that really grinded my gears or chapped my hide, if you will, unless you're living in Las Vegas, in which case you're probably thrilled. But for me, not so much. So we'll get into that at the bottom of the hour. But right now, it's time to speak with Kyle Banagura. He is an ESPN college football writer. He joins me now. Kyle, how are you? Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, what do you make of all of the change going on in Utah? I guess one of the changes was actually not a change in that Coach Witt is coming back, bringing in a new offensive coordinator, going to totally change the face of the offense for the Utah Utes. So what do you make of all the changes going on after a really, really, really disappointing, to put it mildly, year for the Utah Utes?
Yeah, a lot of it was kind of inevitable, right? We've seen this coming for, a couple months now, right? That there was going to either be, some sort of a major overhaul, whether that was Kyle stepping down and riding out to the sunset, or wholesale changes offensively, just because of what we saw the last 2 years just wasn't up to the standard there. That it was kind of inevitable that they were going to do some change. I haven't kind of dug in and tried to figure out what those schematic changes are going to be yet. I think a lot of that will be determined by personnel, right? But it's one of those deals where it was such a disappointing season that it's hard to be too optimistic right now when they haven't proven it the last 2 years.
Yeah, basically bringing in Jason Beck means that you're going to be playing more of a spread RPO type of offense versus the pro-style offense that they had been running. How often do you see changes, maybe not necessarily at the head coaching position, but on one side of the ball or the other, either the defensive scheme or the offensive scheme, especially coming off of a disappointing year? That's pretty common, right?
Yeah, it's really common, right? If what you're doing is not working, you don't stick with the same style all the time, right? If you have someone who leaves as a coordinator and it's because they were doing a good job, yeah, of course you're going to want to stick with whatever you've been doing. But yeah, switching the style here, I think makes sense. It's not working, and it's kind of trying to play that same style of football again with the roster you have, and that's what I was saying about the personnel too, right? It's like it'll be more spread, of course, it'll be more open, but also like they got to see who they're going to get into the building too, right? And then you're going to have to then tailor what you do to those guys as well, because that's just not how college football works anymore, right? You can recruiting works in such a different way that it's not like you're building a pipeline of guys to play a certain way. So yeah, we'll kind of, once we get into spring ball, I think we'll have a better sense of what this team could look like.
Let's pivot over to the college football playoff. The bracket is set. Undefeated Oregon That's what's going to happen when you're when you're the only undefeated team. Obviously, well-deservedly earned the number 1 overall seed. They look pretty unbeatable, but when you look at the other powerhouses or the teams that were the favorites to win it all, do you still think Georgia, no matter who's at quarterback, or other teams like Ohio State, do you think it's going to be competitive, or is this Oregon's tournament to lose?
Yeah, I think Oregon is the favorite, right? There's, for all the obvious reasons, right? They were the best team in college football all season long, but at the same time, it's not like this is an unbeatable team, and this is Oregon. What they won by 3 points against Ohio State the first time around, and could have to play that. And that was I believe that game was in Eugene. Yeah, it definitely was in Eugene. So they played Ohio State at home and won by 3 in a game that really could have gone either way. Now they're going to get Ohio State or Tennessee on a neutral field in the quarterfinal. So yeah, I mean it's. You're feeling confident, you're feeling good about where you're at if you're Oregon, but I think this format really sets up to make it kind of there's a lot of teams in this field that could win the whole thing. I mean, you could make a case for almost half the field, maybe even more than that if things break in the right way, that it could happen for them. I mean, look at Texas is a good example, right? Like they've got Clemson is probably the worst team in the field, just in terms of what they accomplished this year, 9-3, kind of squeak in only because they win the title game in a down ACC. So Texas has to get through them. Arizona State is their quarterfinal opponent. So you're looking at if they get to the quarterfinal, they've got an easier road, or Penn State if they assuming they get through SMU, also they've got an easier path to get through. And now it's okay when you get to a semifinal, all those teams are on a pretty level from a talent standpoint. So yeah, I mean, I think again, it's a roundabout way to say Oregon's the favorite, but there's a lot of teams that could see you just win this thing if it breaks right.
Speaking with Kyle Bonagura, ESPN college football writer, right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in, ESPN 700. Now, I agree with you on that, because I think that when you look at the seeding, I'm sorry, but I don't see Ohio State as the 8th best team. Now, look, that game against Michigan, they're always going to get up for each other, and that game could have went either way. Ultimately, Ohio State loses to a Michigan team that's in a down year, but I could see them being higher. But that's the second round. When you look at the first round, this is the first time in the college football playoff that the higher seeds are going to actually have a home game in the first round, and Vegas seems to be putting a pretty big emphasis on that, and I'm wondering if you feel the same way. Basically, the teams that are hosting college football playoff games are going to be a touchdown or greater favorite going into the game, unless lines have changed since the last time that I checked. Do you expect these games to – because the way that I see it is once you get it down to 12 teams, I expect all the games to be pretty close, but Vegas seems to think it's going to be touchdown or more. Are there some games that you think are going to be closer than the other ones in the first round?
Yeah, the one that kind of surprised me, and I haven't looked at the line in a couple of days, was I kind of feel like Indiana's getting undervalued. And I think it's because of the brand, right? If you look at how competitive, I mean, they obviously played poorly against Ohio State in the one real test they had, but Notre Dame has not played a lot of difficult opposition over the second half of the year as well. So the fact that Indiana pretty much had its way with almost every team it played this year makes me a little bit hesitant to think that they're going to lose by more than a touchdown to Notre Dame. I think I would even lean towards Indiana winning that one straight up. I know it's again on the road like you said, but I'm not sure that I really care in that case. I think Notre Dame is certainly benefiting from its independence, right, and not having to play a very difficult schedule, especially in the second half of the year. But yeah, look, they're all interesting games. I mean, SMU, we'll see how real they are. They haven't beat a top 25 team all year. Penn State is up and down. The thing for me about Penn State too is they're the 6th seed, but they lost to Ohio State, yet they're seated ahead of them just because of the way their schedule broke. They didn't have to play Oregon during the regular season. If Ohio State missed Oregon and Penn State played Oregon, those records are probably flipped, right? So the seeding is a little bizarre for me, and not valuing head-to-head in a certain way.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to my next question. How do you think, the concoction of how they come up with who's seated where and who gets in and who doesn't, how much of an emphasis in all the different areas did you come away with once the bracket was set? Did you go, okay, well, they really put a big emphasis on strength of schedule, or, oh, okay, they really put a big emphasis on how many games you lost, or they really put an emphasis on what conference you play in, or whether or not you got to your conference title game? Like, when you ultimately saw who got in and who did not, like obviously Alabama fans were clamoring for them to get in, but they had 3 losses. What did you learn from how the committee voted? And I know that thing changes every year because the committee members change every year.
Yeah, so I think my takeaway is that there's not really a set criteria here. I mean, I think they went through and there was individual reasons for why each team was where it was at. Like, it wasn't like we're going to make sure that strength of schedule is the most valuable thing, because if that was the case, Alabama would be in, even though they have 3 losses. If you have the best wins, like Texas doesn't have a top 25 win, SMU doesn't have a top 25 win, so Texas is still the 5 seed and the top ranked team that didn't win its conference, right? So like that doesn't compute, right? But then there's different criteria for all of those teams, and I think as far as like Alabama not getting in, SMU getting in, for me it's interesting because I don't think it's like the 3 loss thing is certainly like was hard to justify Alabama, but at the same time, like, their ceiling is higher than SMU, right? They beat Georgia, who's the second best team in the country according to the committee, right? So if you're good enough to beat the second team, do they feel that way about SMU? Yeah, probably not. I think there's politics that go into this too, and but I think at the end of the day, we're talking about the 7th at-large spot behind 5 conference champions. If you get left out, I don't think any of these teams are really sympathetic in that position. Alabama is not sympathetic. You lost 3 games. You lost to Vanderbilt. You got crushed by Oklahoma. If SMU had gotten left out, I wouldn't have felt bad for them either, even if it was because they lost in the conference title game. The answer to that would have been, look, don't lose to a 3-loss team in your conference title game if you're worthy of going to the playoff, right? Like, Miami is 10-2. They didn't even get considered because they're behind a team that also didn't get left out. Well, don't lose 2 of your last 3 games. And they had some fortunate breaks along the way, officiating wise too. So like, once you get that far down the list, it's not like Florida State last year was 13-0 and got left out, and it was like just a brutal expose of how bad the system was. Like, this is just, there has to be the line drawn somewhere, and you only have yourself to blame at the end of the day if you get left out.
Now, I think a narrative in going into the season with all this conference realignment is that essentially, and I've been joking about it, calling the Big Ten, the AFC, if you want to call it that, and then the SEC, call that the NFC, kind of like it's pro football, which kind of gives a little brother syndrome to, obviously I'm here in Utah, so for the Big 12, and then also maybe the ACC. After everything was all said and done, do you think that nationally those 2 conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC, do you think that they were looked at in a higher light than they were going into the season, about the same, or looked at in a lesser light?
Yeah, I think it's probably about the same. I mean, if you look at the field, what is it, 4 and 3? So we got more than half the field is are from those 2 conferences. So I feel, I mean, you could have envisioned a scenario where it was 4 from the Big Ten, 4 from the SEC, the kind of one across the board with the remaining ones, right? And so if that was the case, I think that would have been this was the over-under. So maybe 7.5 was the over-under in terms of what the expectation was. But I also think it's just kind of how things break, right? If like BYU is a good example in Utah, right? If BYU, they started out 9-0. If they had gone 12-0 during the regular season and then lost in the Big 12 title game, I still think they would have gotten in, right? Kind of like SMU got in despite being 10-2, right? So BYU would have been in that case, and also the Big 12 champion would have been in. So you would have had 2 teams from the conference just because that's the way things broke, right? And I think that's probably, that's how it's going to play out in the future too. It's just going to be individual circumstances about how these things kind of line up. It's going to determine, how many teams these conferences are getting in year after year. I think, is it fair? Like, actually, I think it probably is fair. I do think there's there's better teams in the Big Ten and the SEC on balance. That doesn't mean like a team from the Big 12 or ACC can't compete at that level on its own merit, but there's just more depth in those other leagues in terms of top level talent. College football is very cyclical. That could change, but I think that is the reality. And people who follow this closely can understand that, right? And it's there's certainly a little brother syndrome that comes with that. I think we've seen that in college football for years, right? The Pac-12 felt that a little bit even as a Power 5 conference, and even if it wasn't unjust. So, yeah, I think for individual teams, it's handle your business. There's a pathway to the playoff now for everyone, and I'm actually really enjoying how this system plays out compared to years past.
Oh, well, it looks like you asked my final question before I get you on out of here. I was just going to ask you personally, with the NIL and with the transfer portal, it seems like you're getting a lot more parity where in years past you could pretty much not pencil. You could pen in Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, maybe some years Michigan, even when it was a 14 playoff, you were going to get much of the same names in there, LSU, stuff like that. But now I feel like it's a little bit more wide open. There's more parity. I personally enjoy it more because unless you're one of those teams that were constantly in it, you want to see a variety and you want to see parity. But for you personally, are you enjoying it more now that you're going to get a little bit more randomness than just the same teams year in and year out?
Yeah, and I think what's good about it, right, is like, and it's not necessarily the NIL stuff and the transfer portal that does play a role here. I think it's just like when there's 12 spots, it's getting one of those 12 spots is like more realistic and more obtainable, right? And it keeps these teams that were kind of in that second tier relevant nationally much longer into the season, right? Because if you make the quarterfinal, that's a heck of a year. Like that's something that you can celebrate. I mean, like in college basketball, if you're a team at a certain level, like reaching the Elite Eight, you hang a banner for that. You reach the Final Four, that's something you remember for a generation, right? Sweet 16, like I went to Washington State, and like people still talk about the Sweet 16 team of 08, right? Like those things matter. So I think you can kind of like measure success in a new way and stay relevant nationally in a new way. And I think it's just really healthy for the sport. It's more inclusive for the sport because you really felt like in that 4-team era, like look, if you weren't in the mix for one of those 4 spots, like you had to really be at a certain threshold, right, to be kind of in that mix. And once you weren't, it's almost like you didn't matter and your games were kind of irrelevant nationally. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun kind of seeing how all these other teams, look, Arizona State, Boise State, SMU, Indiana, I mean, they're in this tournament. I mean, this is the type of stuff those programs would have only dreamed of before.
He writes about college football for ESPN. He is Kyle Bonagura. Kyle, throw out your Twitter handle. I don't have it here in my rundown, but tell the people where they can follow you and get smarter about college football on Twitter.
Yeah, so not so much on Twitter as much any day. I've kind of migrated over to Blue Sky. It feels more like early days of Twitter. So it's just my name, Kyle Bonagura, there, and trying to post more there. It's a lot more conversational as opposed to people complaining, which is what for me the whole Twitter experience has kind of turned.
What's it called?
Over the last Blue Sky is this kind of new social media platform that a lot of people are migrating over to. So yeah, check it out. It's very similar to Twitter. It's a similar experience with less bots replying to posts and less people complaining about their life. So I would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, you probably won't get this reference, but maybe Deebo Samuel wouldn't have been responding if he was on Blue Sky instead of Twitter. But either way, go Google him, find his stuff. It'll make you smarter about college football. Appreciate your time, Kyle.
Sure thing. Thanks.
There you go, Kyle Bonagura. Good stuff from him. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, unless you root for Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State, or I guess Clemson there for a while, LSU here and there, but unless you're a fan of one of the teams that was constantly in the playoff, parity is a good thing. I mean, I think the NFL is always searching for parity. That's why the team that that has the worst record gets the number 1 pick. And all teams are searching for parity. They want to have 32 fan bases. Well, in college football, obviously a lot more than that. But they want to have as many fan bases engaged in the sport as possible. So I think it's been really good for the sport. All right, coming up.
Yeah, Zakariah, just real quick. Yeah. Like how many 2-loss fan bases, 3-loss fan base fans of teams that had 2 and 3 losses mid-November were still clamoring to be included in the college football playoff. Like, that's awesome. Because
no, for sure.
So many years,
it keeps you engaged until the end of the year.
Yeah, there were so many years, and I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm one of those that you just said maybe the majority of Ohio State fans are not for parity, but I'm one that is. And one of the things as a Buckeyes fan that always frustrated me about college football is they'd inevitably drop a game against Iowa or in the middle of the season, Iowa, Purdue,
and your season's over.
And the season's over. In the
no.
BCS era, certainly, one loss, you're out of the national championship picture, even though they still were one of the best programs in college football, one of the best teams in college football in those years. They had one loss and it was over. And then the 4-team era, they got that second loss in week 6. It's over. And it's like, okay, why do I need to watch the rest of the season? Now that there's a 12-team playoff, you have 2 and 3 loss teams, really good 2 and 3 loss teams still in the mix. Like, that's great for the sport.
Yeah, and let's not sugarcoat it. They're not doing this because, this is what's right. They're doing this because
some money involved.
Yeah, of course. Money and ratings. The more fan bases you have intrigued by the season for a longer period of time, the better. And I can go dinosaur age on you, James. And I remember when it was like the AP newspaper poll that came out, and that's so like undefeated teams,
pre-VCS
teams would not be a national champion. And like even to relate it to Utah, Alex Smith went undefeated, didn't even have a chance to become a national champion. And now you have like your Buckeyes, a 2-loss team that I think they're a lot better than what their ranking is, and like Kyle said, gave Oregon everything that they could and blew out Nebraska and not Nebraska, I'm sorry, what am I thinking of?
Indiana,
yeah. And so I think that they're much better than what their seed is, but now they actually have a chance to play for a national championship, and their season's not over, which just seems ludicrous now that we finally evolved to a much better system. All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour, I'm usually positive Pete, but in this segment I'm going to be negative Nancy. A rough L for the Utah Hockey Club last night, and then also some news out of the desert over there in Las Vegas, which I was disappointed by. You'll know why. And it's going to be a little disappointing for the state of Utah as well, because I was sort of hoping that while I was crushed by the inevitability of the team leaving, I was hoping that I could at least get the consolation prize that they would come here. But some big news coming out of the desert. We'll get to that and much, much more. Before we lighten it up, I'm going to, it'll be a negative segment at the bottom of the hour here, but then we'll lighten it up for Fun in the 40s when we close out the show. All that and much, much more coming up. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
heading in, chipped it down. Good stick from Bogosian, but fired around for Dylan Gunther. 21-year-old gets it back from Sergachev. Gunther's got that great shot. Keller moving in with a shot. Score! Keller again! Tied at
3. Unfortunately, was not enough. That was Clayton Keller's second goal of the night in last night's 5-4 loss to the Minnesota Wild. Sound courtesy of SEG Media. Matt McConnell on the call. The club is now 12-11-5 on the year, and they face the Avs tomorrow night in Denver. I don't know about you, James. Hockey's not my number one sport, but when it comes to listening to it on the radio, I'm not sure that I like a sport better. I would probably go hockey 1. For some reason, there's something old school about listening to baseball on the radio. I might have baseball 2. Basketball, just because there's so much you have to describe. But something about hockey on the radio, just the, back and forth, he passes over there, shoots, he scores! And then you have the horn going on in the background and the crowd going crazy. I don't know. I love hockey on the radio. But, yeah, that was a great call there. And that was a frustrating game. Went into overtime. But anytime you have a lead with 43.2 seconds, you got to hold on to that bad boy. You just do. That was Clayton Keller's second goal in the third period to rally the Utah Hockey Club from a 1-goal deficit. Kevin Stenlin and Juuso Valimaki also scored. And Karel Vamelka, I like to call him Veggie, Vamelka, he made 34 saves. So, look, the average night in a hockey game, you're going to get about 30 shots on goal. And there was 34 on Veggie. Unfortunately, couldn't get one more save than he needed in regulation to be able to secure the victory. But this game was a lot about Minnesota's defense. As, very surprising that the Utah Hockey Club was able to get 4 goals. They only had 25 shots on goal. So, especially in the first period, it was like single digits shots on goals. And, not a hockey expert, but if you don't get many shots on goals, you're not going to get that many goals. So that was a rough L. Hopefully I can bring some luck next week. I'm snatching up OC's season pass tickets, and I'm going to be attending. I've been to a couple of Sharks games. I went to an outside game, which was phenomenal. I believe it was San Jose, and I want to say Pittsburgh, and it was at Levi's Stadium where the Niners
was it
play.
Levi? Okay, I was just going to ask, was it at the San Jose Earthquakes Stadium, the soccer stadium, but they had it at Levi's Stadium?
Levi's, yeah, it was
That's
phenomenal.
awesome.
Yeah, it was at night too, I believe.
I know they've had. I know. Speaking of Pittsburgh, I know the Penguins have had outdoor games at now Acrisure Stadium, the formerly Heinz Field, there in Pittsburgh. So, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, they've had them in Chicago.
Yeah, Wrigley
Boston,
Field, right?
Yep,
Wrigley
yep.
Field and Soldier Field, I think, have hosted them. Fenway Park,
yeah. It's awesome.
That'd be awesome. I hope one day we can get an outdoor game here in Salt Lake City. I know when they brought the team in officially, University of Utah had said, "Hey, we'll let you use Rice-Eccles Stadium for an outdoor game." I think that'd be pretty cool. 50,000 seats, 50,000 people outdoors screaming for the Utah Hockey Club. So, it seems like that'd be the spot to do an outdoor game in Salt Lake City. But who knows? Maybe hopefully by then we have the MLB team, and maybe that's where you do it.
Yeah, well, a couple of side notes that I always love to throw in there. Number one, if you go to a hockey game, if it's your first time, as this is the first year that Utah's had a professional team, layer up as if you're going to be outside, because it is cold in there. And then
It's cold.
Number two, and I don't know why I didn't believe my buddy, but it was my first time I used my press pass, and I went into the locker room, and I've been in football locker rooms, I've been in basketball locker rooms, I've been in baseball locker rooms. You cannot there's not even a word in the English dictionary, maybe some other language. I don't have one in English. Rank does not even do it. Horrible. Like, there is no word of the smell of a hockey. And I think it's because all the moisture just stays in and athletes just stink in general. But that was the nastiest smell. I can't think of another smell that that I would not want to smell over that one. I mean, it was so bad.
That's what I've heard that. I've been in the Utah Hockey Club post-game locker room once now.
Yeah.
It did not smell that bad. So I don't know what they did for that.
Hang on, James. First year, buddy.
Yeah, you're right.
You're
right.
That some time.
It must be. It must need some time. The other thing that comes to mind when you say that is Scott Mitchell in the summertime came on the show and was talking about playing in Detroit and being in Hockey Town when he played for the Lions and becoming a hockey fan in Hockey Town in the heyday of the Red Wings when they were winning Stanley Cups every couple of years or every darn near every year. And he talked about hockey's awesome because of the skill that these guys have, and they're doing it on skates, and it can just be beautiful. Some of the things they do on skates when you're on ice, it has a certain beauty. But he's like, but then I was able to go. I was invited by some of the current Red Wings players, he said, to come into the locker room and kind of hang out with them after the games and stuff. And he's like, as beautiful it is on the ice, there's a stinkiness.
Oh, man.
that just defies explanation.
Again, stinkiness does not even come close to describing
it. It was perfect. He was waxing poetic about the beauty of hockey, and then he's like, but then there's a stinkiness.
Yeah.
it was
no, for
amazing.
Sure. I mean, my buddy warned me, but I was like, dude, come on. How much worse could it be than a football, basketball, or baseball locker room, But boy, man.
No, I've heard that. I haven't experienced it yet, thankfully, here in Utah, but I'm sure, like you said, give it some time.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, Ryan Smith and with technology, maybe they're doing something to eradicate that. But, yeah, when I went into the Sharks locker room, it was all bad. But, yes, that does lead me to the next topic of this Down in the Dumps after discussing the heartbreaking loss last night from the Utah Hockey Club. Unfortunately, it looks like the A's are definitely going to be in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Stadium Authority approved lease, non-relocation, and development documents last Thursday, to clear the last major hurdles for the Athletics to construct a $1.75 billion stadium on the Strip and bring Major League Baseball to the expanding sports market. Utah is also an expanding sports market, and so I was hoping my beloved Oakland Athletics, and they're going to play in Sacramento for the next 3 years, but I was praying and hoping that if they were going to leave, they would at least come to Salt Lake. Unfortunately, it looks like if Utah is to get a baseball team, it's going to be an expansion team, not the A's, because the major hurdles, which was specifically those things, it looks like the lease and the non-relocation agreements cover 30 years. And if you read the details, I'm not going to get into all the minutia. I don't want to bother or bore anybody with any of that stuff. But the really disheartening part is the amount of personal money that John Fisher, is going to be pledging. It looks like he's going to be pledging $1.1 billion of his family money, which he was not willing to do in Oakland, which just goes to show you he never wanted to stay there and he wanted to leave. So anyways, that's the down in the dumps.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer, especially if you're an A's fan like yourself. That's got to be hard to swallow. It's Clay Bennett-ish, right? With what he did in Seattle when he bought the Sonics and then was like, I'm not going to move them. Don't worry. They're staying here in Seattle. And then lo and behold, he just the whole time he was plotting to get them to his hometown, Oklahoma City.
Yeah, or Kroenke moving the Rams from St. Louis.
It's like, if it's not a money thing, then why? Yeah. Anyway,
it is.
There's plenty. I mean, there was plenty of, I guess, consternation between he and the Oakland City Council, I guess, with getting a new stadium. But whatever, that's a bummer. Let me try to turn this around a little bit, though, Zakariah. Speaking of Major League Baseball in Salt Lake City, there was a press release yesterday from the Larry H. Miller Group, last night, in fact, that said that Salt Lake City Council has approved the Jordan River Fair Park District Zone for development, and that is where the ballpark would be built if and when we get a Major League Baseball team here. So that's a significant hurdle in that.
Let's do this. Let's end the final segment on a happy note. We'll do that and much, much more. All coming up next in the final segment. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the program. Final segment of the show here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in, ESPN 700. Giving you a couple of different ways that you can give back. Around the holidays, it's not only important to be thankful for your friends and family and all of the good things that you have going on in your life, but also to think about the other ones that are unfortunate. And we're giving you a couple of different ways. I'm down here for only another 15 minutes or so, but the good people here down at Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy will be here for, I don't know, at least a few more hours, I would assume. 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come by, drop off whatever, gloves, hats, blankets, coats, shoes, anything you got. Come on down, drop it off here. There's other locations, of course, that you can check it out, ESPNSports700.com. And you can see other locations where you can drop it off. And then the other way you could do your good duty, your good deed of the day, I should say, is that Spence is going to be live, and the drive is coming up at about 2 o'clock. Spence is live at the ARUP Blood Drive at 9786 South Sandy Parkway in Sandy. Save a life by giving blood today. So those are two ways that you can give back to the people that need it. But right now it's time for Topical Trivia. A chance to win 2 tickets to see Keith Urban in concert, part of his High and Alive World Tour. This show that we're giving the tickets away for is going to be on July 18th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. And all you got to do is text in the answer to this trivia question, which is, what is Keith Urban's childhood nickname? What is Keith Urban's childhood nickname? The first person to call in or text in at 877-353-0700 wins 2 tickets to go see him next year. So, James, you could let me know if we get a winner on that. In the meantime, I will look, we started off the show. Alex Smith gave a lot of love to Utah in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech, as he is the first Utah Ute to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. And so essentially what I said is, does that do it? Now, not sure if Cam will get in or not, and I don't know how much they factor in, because it is called the College Football Hall of Fame, not the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I'm not sure how much Alex Smith's pro career helped him get in, but basically the question was pretty simple. Does Alex Smith induction to the College Football Hall of Fame cement him as the greatest Ute quarterback of all time? One of my previous guests that was on, Scott Mitchell, can make an argument, and most recently Cam Rising could make an argument. But the people have spoken 91% to 9%, saying yes, it is not up for debate. He is the greatest Ute quarterback of all time. So thank you for everybody that voted in. And the poll's up for 24 hours, so you can always vote at ESPN 700 is the station's handle, and then I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. So go ahead and give it a click. If you don't like the results of that poll, then let your voice be heard and vote the other way.
We need Scott and all of his burner accounts to try to make that closer, right?
Yeah,
and he and Cam Rising.
Too.
Yeah,
him and Cam, they should team up, send a tweet out. They should quote tweet
friends and family. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
For sure.
Try to close that gap a little bit. No, I think, all jokes aside, like all 3 of those quarterbacks, and I would put Brian Johnson, the quarterback at the Sugar Bowl team that beat Alabama in 08 as well, in as kind of the 4. Maybe you could include Tyler Huntley as well and make it 5, but I think there's really a clear top 4. But even in all that, I think Alex Smith is the clear number 1.
Yeah,
if Cam had one more healthy year and they win another conference championship in the playoff or something, I think maybe that gap gets significantly closer. But since that didn't happen, as great as Cam's 2-year run was, winning back-to-back Pac-12 championships and being all Pac-12 and the whole thing, I think Alex Smith is the clear number 1.
Well, it's a little bit hard to compete with one loss over 2 seasons.
It really is.
I mean, that's pretty rarefied air.
And breaking the glass ceiling that was the BCS for
True.
for a
Yep.
group of 5 team. That we weren't calling it group of 5 at that time. It was probably mid-major at that time that we were calling it. But to be the first non-BCS school to make it to play, to be invited to a BCS bowl, the Fiesta Bowl that year. I mean, that was after an undefeated season. I mean, that's always going to be significant.
No doubt. Do we have a winner to the trivia question yet? Because I want to say it on air, but not until we have a winner.
Still looking for a winner.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll ask it one more time. What is Keith Urban's childhood nickname? Go ahead and text that on in. Apparently that's the people of Keith Urban are stumping the listeners out there. And I want to say it on air because I think it's a pretty funny nickname, but I don't want to say it out loud until we get a winner. But 877-353-0700. If you text the right answer into there, you will get 2 tickets to go see the man.
Okay, we just got a bunch. We just got a bunch of correct
Just got
answers.
a bunch.
So,
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, just when.
Oh, you had to refresh it or something?
Yeah, I refreshed it, and also your second call there got all the people who have the answers. Yeah, go ahead and put it out there because I chuckled at it too.
Yeah, well, obviously his name is Keith Urban, but his childhood nickname was Suburban. I don't know why I like
Suburban.
that. I just did.
That was Urban Meyer's nickname too, right? No, just kidding.
Really?
No, it was not.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to
I know
make
you're
it
learning
full
this,
circle.
James. I'm very gullible. You could pretty much tell me anything, and I'll believe it. So I would have bought that. Did he have a nickname while he was out here?
No, I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. Maybe Urbane. Just kidding. I don't know what if Urban's ever had a nickname.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But yeah.
So. We do have one really good incorrect answer. Cozy.
Cozy.
Okay.
That's worth a shot. All right. Well, the drive is coming up next, but before we get over to the drive, and again, just because I'm leaving doesn't mean that you should not stop on by and donate whatever you can. We're at 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. Come on by, drop some stuff off, do your good deed for the day, and to give you a little bit more motivation and a little bit more of a push. I'm sitting down here with General Sales Manager Edgar Sotomayor. Edgar, how are you doing, sir? Tell the people why they should come on down and come see you.
I'm doing great, man. Again, thank you for being here today. Just to update you, as you may remember, we started the morning with an empty truck bed to get all the donations in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, last time I checked, we're about 90% full right now.
Nice.
So thank you so much. That's just for today. We still continue to need
of course,
donations.
Yeah. Never enough.
Never enough. I do want to thank the community out there has come in and helped us out and provided these donations for Roadhouse. It's going to make a lot of difference to a lot of people out there. And if I could, real quick, just to my Latino family out there, my Latino community out there, los invito a que vengan acá a visitarnos. Con mucho gusto los atendemos. Yo los puedo atender, Edgar, o una vendedora que tengo que es muy calificada, que se llama Jackie. Los atendemos en español o en inglés, como los prefieran. Y también les pido que nos ayuden con donaciones para esta causa, que es para ayudar a aquellas gentes que no tienen las oportunidades que nosotros tenemos muchas veces. Les invito otra vez. And again, thank you so much for being out here today.
If I was right out of high school, I would have understood like 75% of it. As it stands now, see, the problem with language, Edgar, is if you don't speak it, you lose it.
You lose it, yes.
So I took high school throughout high school, and then when we turned 18, for a particular reason, we went to Mexico for a vacation, me and my buddies, because 18 is a certain age where,
Absolutely.
So, but I was able to get around and speak, but then, I lost it. And then when in junior college, I took Italian, and my grandfather was Italian.
Awesome.
And so I spoke it pretty well. Italian and Spanish are not that dissimilar. But then when he passed away, I stopped speaking it. Now I don't know a lick of Italian either. So, but
well, good thing you know
you
English.
Still got a good. And I understood, like I said, maybe 15%. But yeah, thank you for doing that. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving people an outlet to come down and donate and help out the less fortunate. Again, especially when it's as cold as it is. As I joked about at the top of the program, the cold punched me in the face. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, bring some stuff to keep them warm. And again, thank you so much for having me. Again, come on down 1141 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. It is the Tooele Motor Company and Rocky Mountain Chevy. We also have locations all around where you can go ahead and do that. And as I said earlier, that's one way that you can give back. And another way that you can give back is going and seeing my guy Spence, who was live at the ARUP Blood Drive at 9786 South Sandy Parkway in Sandy. So if you're close to Sandy, go there. If you're close to Tooele, then come here. But you can go down and see Spence at the ARUP Blood Drive at 9786 South Sandy Parkway in Sandy. Save a life by giving blood today. All right, that'll do it for me. Thank you, James, back on the ones and twos at the station. Thank you for everybody that came out and helped. Thank you for everybody that came out and gave. I will be back tomorrow with another jam-packed show for you. And again, stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts coming up next. You've been listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700.